Chapter 188. Su Zimo did not leave immediately. Instead, he intended to stay in the palace for a few days to accompany his brother. After all, he did not know when he would return again. Demoness Ji did not leave either and stayed in the palace with Su Zimo. She would only head out occasionally and tease Su Zimo when she had nothing to do. As the king of Yen, Su Hong naturally would not stay in the harem all the time. He would take time out every day to attend court and review memorials. During this period of time, Su Zimo sat quietly in his room, raising his cultivation and cultivating the organ's refinement section. At the same time, he comprehended the bloodline spirit arts he obtained from the stone coffin as well as the Buddha bead. Before leaving Misty Peak, Su Zimo's cultivation realm was already at the peak of early-stage foundation establishment. After the battle in the inheritance ground and obtaining more than half of the bloodline essence of the mysterious skeleton, Su Zimo broke through to mid-stage foundation establishment within a few days. Everything happened naturally. Su Zimo's bloodline realm was extraordinary to begin with and he had already reached the legendary tsunami blood. Naturally, it was relatively easy for him to cultivate those bloodline spirit arts. As for the organ's refinement section, Su Zimo still had no clue about it. He would only think about it occasionally and put it aside because he did not gain anything. During this period of time, Su Zimo's greatest focus was on the mysterious Buddha bead. It was clear that there was a powerful secret skill hidden within the Buddha bead, Fiend Suppression Seal. Each time Su Zimo stared at the Buddha bead, he would fall into an illusion and experience the aura of the golden palm, the hand seals that it conjured, descending from the heavens to suppress evil and destroy mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He pondered and tried to figure it out repeatedly, unwilling to miss out on a single detail. This day, a group of foundation establishment cultivators arrived in the capital of Yen Kingdom. The man and woman in the lead were Su Yu and Chen Meng Qi. Junior sister, in my opinion, let's barge into the palace openly and drag Prince Yen out. After inquiring about junior brother Zhou's whereabouts, we'll take our revenge. What do you think? Su Yu asked for Chen Meng Qi's opinion with a smile. Chen Meng Qi frowned and shook her head. I don't want to see these old friends. I won't go with you. Su Yu rolled his eyes and nodded. That's right. With our status, if we look for the king of Yen, we will elevate his status instead. Junior brothers Liang Hao and Lu Hongyi, please bring a few of your fellow disciples to the palace and invite King Yen, Su Hong over. Su Yu emphasized the word please. His intention was self-evident, he wanted Su Hong to suffer a little. Two iridescent clouds palace cultivators stood out and cupped their fists. Don't worry, senior brother Su. Leave this to us. Su Yu nodded. Both Liang Hao and Lu Hongyi were in the late stage of foundation establishment. In the capital of the country of Yen, they could do whatever they wanted. Not to mention the iridescent clouds palace's sect medallion hanging on their waists. Who would be so blind as to provoke them? Su Yu, Chen Meng Qi, and Shen Nan casually found an inn and stayed there, waiting for Liang Hao, Lu Hongyi, and the rest to bring King Yen over. Among them, the most excited one was Shen Nan. For the past 2 years, ever since Su Hong was conferred the title of king, Shen Nan had been living in fear, afraid that the Su family would settle scores with him one day. But now, Shen Nan no longer had to be afraid. After Su Hong left court today, he headed towards the harem. When he arrived at Su Zimo's door and realized that it was tightly shut, he paused for a moment and turned to leave instead of knocking. He guessed that Su Zimo might be in seclusion and did not disturb him. After returning to his bedroom, Su Hong continued to read through the memorials. Before long, a commotion sounded from outside. Who's there? Ah! Vaguely, there were sounds of fighting and tragic cries, as though someone had barged into the palace and was heading here. Su Hong frowned, but his expression did not change much as he remained calm. Lu Yu and Yu Qihua exchanged glances and hurriedly stood in front of Su Hong, whispering, "Eldest young master, leave from the back." Song Qi stood up and withdrew a flying sword from his storage bag. With a grim expression, he shook his head. "I'm afraid we won't be able to leave." Snap! The moment he said that, the door of the bedroom was slammed open by a tremendous force and shattered into pieces. More than 10 cultivators barged in with huge strides, looking around with their heads held high in an imposing manner. Sweeping his gaze, Song-chi could not help but be shocked and his breathing stagnated. Foundation Establishment Cultivators. More than 10 cultivators, and all of them were Foundation Establishment cultivators. The two in the lead had even higher cultivation realms. They were both late-stage Foundation Establishment cultivators. A force as such was almost destructive to a vassal state. When did the country of Yen offend such a force? Song-chi's mind raced as he pondered. That doesn't make sense. We rarely interacted with cultivators in the past. There's no way we could have offended them. Song-chi's gaze landed on the badges on the waists of the Foundation Establishment cultivators and he focused his gaze. Iridescent Clouds. One of the 5 major sects, Iridescent Clouds Palace. Something big had happened. Pretending to be calm, Song-chi revealed a smile and said in a deep voice, "Seniors of Iridescent Clouds Palace, please forgive me for not going out to welcome you." Without even looking at Song-chi, Liang Hao raised his head slightly and looked around with his nose in the air. Finally, he looked at Su Hong who was sitting in the middle and raised his brow. "You're the king of Yen, Su Hong." "That's me." Su Hong stood up slowly with a calm expression. Pushing Lu Yu and Yuchihu away, he looked straight at Liang Hao and the others. "Fu." A mocking smile appeared on Lu Hongyi's lips as he chuckled. "Truly, the ignorant are fearless. To think that you can remain so calm even now. I wonder if you'll be scared out of your wits later. May I know why you've barged into the country of Yan's palace?" Su Hong's tone was calm, neither servile nor overbearing. "What's the matter?" Liang Hao's expression darkened as he suddenly hollered, "Su Hong, how dare you? Kneel down when you see the immortals of Iridescent Clouds Palace." His voice was deafening and reverberated throughout the bedroom in an imposing manner. It was as though there was truly an immortal looking down at the masses and questioning them loudly. Even Song-chi's face was pale, let alone mortals. His chest felt stuffy and his heart thumped wildly. Raising his head, Su Hong suddenly laughed and asked instead, "Why should I kneel?" "Indeed, you're ignorant. Seems like you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. I've really got to let you suffer a little," Lu Hongyi said sinisterly with a menacing expression. Just as he was about to stride forward, a voice sounded from outside. "The people of Iridescent Clouds Palace sure are promising. Forcing others to kneel for no reason, foo-foo." That statement was clearly filled with mockery and disdain. Instantly, everyone from Iridescent Clouds Palace was enraged and turned back. A green-robed man strode over. His features were refined and he looked like a scholar. However, when he narrowed his eyes, they were long and narrow like sabers. There was a cold glint in them that was extremely sharp. Behind the green-robed man was a woman in pink. She was so beautiful that it was suffocating. Her eyes seemed to be able to speak as light swirled around her, causing ripples to form in the hearts of many cultivators. Chapter 189. The dozens of cultivators of Iridescent Clouds Palace, be it men or women, were attracted by the looks of the girl in pink and momentarily forgot where they were. It was only when the green-robed man and the girl in pink brushed past everyone and entered the hall that everyone gradually regained their senses. Liang Hao and Lu Hongyi hurriedly used their spirit-peering art to check on the two of them. The girl in pink seemed to have cultivated some sort of secret skill to conceal her cultivation, and her cultivation realm was blurry and unfathomable. There was nothing special about the green-robed cultivator, he was merely a mid-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator. Liang Hao and Lu Hongyi sneered internally. When they saw that the green-robed cultivator and the girl in pink did not have any identity badges, they assumed that they were itinerant cultivators or from small sects and were nothing to fear. The moment they caught sight of the girl in pink, be it Liang Hao or Lu Hongyi, both of them had the same thought, to display their strength and gain the favor of the girl in pink. The green-robed cultivator and the girl in pink were naturally Su Zimo and Demoness Ji. Su Zimo walked into the hall and swept his gaze. When he saw that no one was injured, his killing intent dissipated slightly. Even though Song Chi did not say anything, he kept winking at Su Zimo, reminding him that the other party's cultivation realm was higher than his and that he was from Iridescent Cloud's palace with a strong background and strength. When Su Hong saw Su Zimo appear, a look of worry flashed through his eyes as well. Su Zimo smiled gently and nodded to Su Hong, Song Chi and the others, indicating for them to be at ease. Su Zimo found a random chair and sat down calmly without even looking at the people from Iridescent Cloud's palace. Liang Hao and the others were enraged when they saw that Su Zimo was so arrogant despite his cultivation realm being lower than theirs. "Were you the one who spoke earlier on?" Liang Hao glared at Su Zimo and asked coldly. "That's right." Su Zimo lowered his head and rubbed his thumb and middle finger against each other as he replied expressionlessly. Liang Hao narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "In that case, you have a problem with me asking Su Hong to kneel down." Raising his head, Su Zimo glanced sideways at Liang Hao and asked with a smile, "Are you worthy? You're courting death." Liang Hao made a hand seal with his fingertips, and the spirit energy in his dantian burst forth, condensing a long sword out of thin air. This was one of the more common spirit techniques in the cultivation world, the condensing sword technique. The long sword was condensed with dense spiritual energy as the foundation. Its sharpness was not inferior to a spiritual weapon at all. Moreover, its aura was terrifying as it emitted a sharp pressure. At this moment, Su Zimo also moved. His mind kept replaying the shocking scene he saw when the Buddha beads fell into the illusion. Subconsciously, Su Zimo's middle finger and thumb interlocked, forming a strange hand seal. The secret technique hidden within the Buddhist beads, devil vanquishing seal. At this moment, the spiritual power in his dantian began to circulate crazily, continuously pouring into the hand seal that he had just formed. This speed was too fast. The fiend suppression seal was like a bottomless pit, devouring the spirit energy in Su Zimo's dantian continuously. Su Zimo had a feeling that if he did not make a move now, the fiend suppression seal could even absorb all of his spirit energy without leaving a single drop behind. One had to know that the more powerful a spiritual art was, the greater the consumption of spiritual energy. Right now, Su Zimo was at mid-stage foundation establishment. Due to the existence of the blood-bone palm, the quality of his spirit energy was comparable to late-stage foundation establishment. If the fiend suppression seal could absorb the spirit energy of late-stage foundation establishment, how terrifying would that spirit art be? Su Zimo did not dare to wait any longer and struck right away. Boom! There was a deafening sound. Right in front of everyone, a gigantic golden palm descended from the skies, tearing through the firmaments and crushing the air currents, crushing towards Liang Hao and the others with a terrifying aura. At that moment, everyone who was not involved felt their hearts skip a beat. Psst! Song Chi gasped and his heart skipped a beat. Even though the palm was not targeted at him, he could still feel a suffocating pressure. Demoness Ji's mouth was agape and her eyes were widened in disbelief. As the pure maiden of the fiend sects, she was naturally discerning. The strength of the spirit art before her had already surpassed her imagination. Even the ancient fiend sects did not have many spirit arts of this level, let alone Misty Peak. Liang Hao and Lu Hongyi, who were beneath the fiend suppression seal, were even more shocked as they looked up into the skies with widened, bloodshot eyes and trembling bodies. Both of them could see it clearly. The patterns on the golden palm were clearly visible, as though they were corporeal. It was as though the palm of a divine being was crushing over with a supreme might, wanting to destroy all life. Fellow sect mates, help me! The fiend suppression seal descended extremely quickly and covered a huge area. Liang Hao could not dodge at all and could only holler in his hurry. Lu Hongyi, who was beside him, was the first to bear the brunt as well. At that moment, both of them had an illusion. It was as though they were not facing a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator, but a perfected foundation establishment cultivator who had unlocked multiple meridians. There was no way Liang Hao could kill Su Zimo in time with his newly formed spirit sword and could only stab towards the golden palm above his head with all his might. Kill! On the other side, Lu Hongyi released his spirit art as well, and an incomparably gigantic mirror shrouded the two of them. It shimmered and rippled, as though it could neutralize all powers. Although the remaining 10 iridescent clouds palace cultivators were not enveloped by the golden palm, they helped out one after another when they saw that their senior brothers were in trouble. Instantly, flying swords crisscrossed and sword chi were like frost as spirit arts were released. They only had a single target, the descending golden palm. Snap! Liang Hao's spirit sword was the first to break. Against the golden palm, it was as though it could not withstand a single blow. Bang! 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 Clang! 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 The flying swords and spirit arts of everyone from Iridescent Cloud's palace collided against the golden palm at the same time. The palm shook and its golden light dimmed significantly. Even so, the golden palm continued to crush down. The golden palm made contact with the spirit mirror created by Lu Hongyi. Piak! The water ripples on the surface of the spirit mirror froze instantly and shattered, causing its spirit energy to dissipate. Liang Hao and Lu Hongyi were flustered as they hurriedly withdrew protection talismans from their storage bags and crushed them. A barrier of light appeared around the two of them. Crack! 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 In the blink of an eye, cracks appeared on the surface of the light barrier and spread rapidly, filling it densely. Bang! The protection talismans had failed. Exclamation point. Liang Hao and Lu Hongyi could not bear the burden and spat out mouthfuls of blood as though they were struck by lightning. Their faces were pale and they looked dispirited. Immediately after, their legs went limp and they knelt on the ground with a thud. Their knees were almost shattered and they were in so much pain that their facial features were scrunched together. The golden palm dissipated after receiving so much impact. The hall was dead silent. This was a scene that no one had expected before. Demoness Ji knew that Su Zimo's melee combat strength was terrifying. However, she truly had not expected that Su Zimo would be able to release such a domineering strength in terms of immortal cultivation methods as well. Two late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators were severely injured and lost their combat strength. After all, the remaining 10 Iridescent Clouds Palace cultivators were not enveloped by the Fiend Suppression Seal and were only attacking from the side. They were not injured. Even so, the 10 of them expended a lot of spirit energy and looked at Su Zimo with fear in their eyes. Chapter 190. Right from the beginning, Su Zimo sat on the chair without much movement. In fact, he did not even stand up, looking calm and composed. In reality, Su Zimo was rather shocked as well. The power of the Fiend Suppression Seal had completely exceeded his expectations. At that moment, the spirit energy in his body was almost depleted. If he could provide sufficient spirit energy, how terrifying would the power of the Fiend Suppression Seal be? According to Su Zimo's conjecture, the power released by the Fiend Suppression Seal just now was only a portion of the true Fiend Suppression Seal. It should not even be 30%. What sort of spirit art was that? Even though it was only 30% of its power, Su Zimo's mid-stage Foundation establishment spirit energy was almost completely drained. Who are you and what sect are you from? Tell me your name if you have the guts. Liang Hao struggled to stand up and glared at Su Zimo with a venomous gaze as he asked slowly. Who told you to get up? Su Zimo's gaze swept and his voice was cold as he casually knocked the teacup on the table to the ground. How strong was Su Zimo's physique? Even a casual strike was not to be underestimated. Furthermore, Liang Hao was already severely injured. Shoo! The teacup tore through the air and arrived. Before he could react, the teacup smashed heavily onto Liang Hao's knee with a loud bang. The teacup shattered into pieces. Liang Hao was just about to stand up when he knelt down once more after that heavy blow. Ah! Liang Hao cried out in pain. In the blink of an eye, cold sweat trickled down his forehead. At the side, Lu Hongyi was about to stand up as well. However, he was so frightened by this scene that he shuddered and knelt on the ground obediently with his head lowered, not daring to make a sound. The situation was pressing and they would only be asking for trouble if they were stubborn. Although there were still 10 Foundation establishment cultivators left from Iridescent Cloud's palace, they were all intimidated by Su Zimo's methods and did not dare to make a move. The 10 Iridescent Cloud's palace cultivators exchanged glances and started retreating with tacit understanding. The matter before them could only be left to senior brother Su Yu and senior sister Qinmeng Qi. It was useless for them to stay here. This isn't over yet. All of you, stay here. Su Zimo sat steadily in the same place, with no intention of getting up. His tone was calm, but it revealed an unquestionable power. Let's go. Someone shouted loudly, took out a flying sword, and fled outside without looking back. Su Zimo pointed forward and shouted, "Sudden thunder!" Crack! Accompanied by a deafening boom, a bolt of lightning as thick as an adult's arm suddenly descended, striking in the middle of the Iridescent Cloud's palace crowd in a dazzling blaze. Densely packed lightning bolts spread out rapidly, crackling loudly. Lightning spells were one of the most ferocious offensive spells among spirit spells. In addition, Su Zimo cultivated the ancient cultivation technique, the Void Lightning Manual. The power of lightning in his bloodline was extremely strong. Of the remaining 10 people, only 4 were in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment stage. The other 6 were in the early stage of the Foundation establishment stage. How could they withstand the power of the thunderclap? Ah! 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 A series of tragic cries came from the crowd. The 6 early-stage Foundation establishment cultivators were charred on the outside and tender on the inside. Smoke billowed from their bodies as they fell to the ground. The 4 mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivators were also covered in dust. Although they managed to withstand it, they were already injured. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths and their black hair curled from the electricity. Su Hong, Song Qi and the others were already dumbfounded. How could they have expected that their younger brother, the second young master of the Su family, would be this strong in just 2 years? Fellow Daoist, you had better not go overboard. Lu Hongyi gulped and mustered his courage to say. Interesting. Su Zimo laughed. You guys were clearly the ones who came to provoke and forced others to kneel. Why are you accusing me of going overboard? Don't be arrogant. Liang Hao endured the pain in his knee and said sinisterly, Lad, my senior brothers and sisters from Iridescent Cloud's palace are in the capital right now. If they see that we didn't bring Su Hong back, just you wait and see. Oh? Su Zimo heard the hidden meaning and asked with interest, in that case, you guys are here today to take the King of Yen away? Liang Hao replied loudly, so what if we are? Very good. Su Zimo nodded and asked again, why are you taking the King of Yen away? Does he have a feud with you guys or is it because of something else? That's none of your business. Liang Hao harumphed. Although Su Hong is the King of Yen, he's only a mortal. It's his honor that senior brother Su wants to meet him. Honor? Su Zimo sneered with a mocking expression, since that's the case, I'll let one of you go. You, go back and tell your senior brother Su to relay my words to him. Su Zimo pointed at a Iridescent Cloud's palace cultivator who was slightly injured and said indifferently, if you want to meet the King of Yen, sure. Get over here yourself. The Iridescent Cloud's palace cultivator nodded in fear and fled on his sword as though he had been pardoned. In an inn near the royal city, Su Yu and Qinmeng Qi were eating and chatting casually. Su Yu asked in concern, Junior sister, you don't look too good. Are you feeling unwell? It's nothing. Qinmeng Qi shook her head and frowned slightly. I don't know why, but I feel an inexplicable sense of frustration. Su Yu smiled. Junior sister, you don't have to think too much. If you don't want to meet these old friends, just avoid Su Hong when he arrives later. Leave everything to me. Yes, Qinmeng Qi nodded. Right then, the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard from afar. It was clear that someone was flying over on a sword at an extremely fast speed, as though they were flustered. Su Yu frowned and waved his robes gently. The door of the house opened and a figure sped over. Junior brother Lu. Su Yu and Chen Mengqi were slightly stunned. The person's clothes were torn and there were even burn marks on some parts of his body. The person rushed over in a hurry with curly black hair and white smoke rising from his head, as though he had just been struck by lightning. Junior brother Lu, how could you be so careless to be struck by lightning? Su Yu frowned and reprimanded, to think that you don't even know how to hide despite your immortal cultivation methods. Look at how you're behaving. The cultivator with the surname Lu was about to withdraw his flying sword and land when he heard that. He could not help but aggravate his injuries and spat out a mouthful of blood, falling to the ground. Su Yu went forward and helped him up. Su Yu's expression changed, he could sense the fluctuation of spirit arts from the person who arrived. Your injuries were caused by thunder arts? Su Yu asked with a frown. The cultivator with the surname Lu finally caught his breath and nodded. Senior brother Su, something happened. Before long, he recounted everything that happened in the palace. In fact, he even conveyed the words that Su Zimo asked him to convey. Humph, what big words! How dare a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator speak so arrogantly to me? Su Yu's expression darkened as he asked, what's that person's name? What sect is he from? This. I don't know. The cultivator with the surname Lu shook his head. Chapter 191. Cultivator Lu frowned and tried to recall. That person wore a green robe and had delicate features. He looked like a cultured and refined scholar. Pausing for a moment, Cultivator Lu grumbled indignantly, but it was all a lie. Who would have thought that this frail scholar would be so strong and be so terrifying the moment he attacked? When she heard that, Chen Mengqi's heart skipped a beat. In her mind, a familiar figure flashed past. For the past 4 years, that figure had already been sealed in the depths of her memories and was almost forgotten. It was only after she returned to her hometown that she recalled some of her childhood memories, adding a hint of melancholy. After hearing junior brother Lu's description, the first person that came to Chen Mengqi's mind was Su Zimo for some reason. However, in the blink of an eye, Chen Mengqi smiled gently and shook her head, denying that thought. That thought was truly ridiculous. Su Zimo did not even have a spirit root, how could he cultivate and possess such immense strength? Chen Mengqi had never regretted her decision back then. Even if she had to do it all over again, she would choose to leave Su Zimo and Pingyang Town to follow perfected being Tsang Lang into cultivation. After 4 years of cultivation, she was increasingly certain of one thing. As time passed by, the gap between her and Su Zimo would only widen until there was no possibility of them ever crossing paths. Let's go to the palace. I want to see which blind person dared to hurt a cultivator of iridescent cloud's palace. Su Yu's voice pulled Chen Mengqi back from her messy thoughts. Chen Mengqi frowned. Senior brother Su, that person's cultivation realm is at mid-stage foundation establishment, but he has the strength to defeat late-stage foundation establishment cultivators. We can't be careless. Yes, Su Yu smiled. Don't worry, junior sister. I know what I'm doing. According to junior brother Lu's description, that person should have mastered a superior spirit art. He relied on that spirit art to suppress Liang Hao and the others. Chen Mengqi nodded. However, the more superior a spirit art is, the more spirit energy it consumes. Su Yu sneered and continued, if I'm not wrong, that person's spirit energy is already depleted. He won't be able to recover much in a short period of time and is at his weakest. Senior brother Su, senior sister Chen, let's not delay any longer. Let's make a move now. Yes. 3 sword lights rose into the sky. Chen Mengqi carried Shen Nan, Su Yu, and cultivator Lu towards the palace. Soon, Su Yu and the other 3 arrived at the entrance of the King of Yan's bedroom on their swords. The door was wide open. From outside, he could see Liang Hao, Lu Hongyi, and the other iridescent clouds palace cultivators kneeling on the ground dejectedly. Since the 4 of them were riding on their swords and looking down from above, they couldn't see who else was in the hall. Su Yu and the other 3 withdrew their flying swords and landed at the entrance of the main hall. At first glance, the four of them saw a middle-aged man with a head full of white hair sitting in the middle. Of course, the most obvious feature of this person was the slanted scar on his face. It was hideous and shocking, and it almost split his entire face into two. Chen Mengqi felt emotional when she saw Su Hong. Of course, she knew Su Hong, but she didn't have a deep impression of him. Even though the person before her had already become the emperor of a country and wielded great authority, compared to her, his standing and strength were still far inferior. It was as if they were clouds and mud. Su Hong was slightly stunned when he saw Chen Mengqi. A girl from the Shen family? After not seeing her for 4 years, he could barely recognize that gentle and simple girl from back then. From Chen Mengqi's body, he could clearly feel a coldness that kept people 1,000 miles away. Although they were both cultivators, Su Hong did not sense that coldness from Su Zimo. At that moment, Su Hong suddenly felt thankful. He was thankful that Chen Mengqi had left his younger brother back then. They were not the same type of people to begin with. Chen Mengqi's gaze paused for a moment on Su Hong's face before shifting to the two people sitting at the side. A green-robed man sat on a chair at the side of the main hall with his side facing the entrance. He was leisurely tasting the freshly brewed fragrant tea with a calm expression. When she saw the green-robed man, Chen Mengqi felt as though she was struck by lightning. Her petite body trembled and she froze on the spot. Shaking her head gently, Chen Mengqi's mouth was slightly agape. Her eyes were filled with disbelief and she felt her mind go blank. Even though it was only a side profile. Even though they had not seen each other for 4 years. Even though this person had matured a lot. However, Chen Mengqi still recognized him immediately. If this was any other time, so you would have definitely noticed Chen Mengqi's abnormality. However, at that moment, his entire attention was attracted by the girl in pink who was seated below the green-robed man and he had almost forgotten where he was. The girl in pink looked at him with a smile and her eyes curved into crescents, seemingly filled with tenderness. Ah! Right then, an exclamation sounded from the main hall. Shen Nan had clearly recognized the green-robed man's identity and his expression changed. Back then, this person wielded a saber and fought in a bloodbath in the courtyard of the Zhao family. The impression he left on Shen Nan was way too deep. It was almost a nightmare that he could not get rid of. Even though Su Yu and Chen Mengqi were standing beside him, the fear that came from the depths of his memories still caused Shen Nan to be so frightened that he exclaimed. That exclamation was somewhat familiar. It was only then that Su Zimo put down the teacup in his hands slowly and glanced sideways at the entrance. Their gazes met. Instantly, it was as though space and time had reversed. Scenes flashed before his eyes and gradually dissipated. For a long time, he was speechless. Shen Mengqi had a conflicted expression. Su Zimo was slightly taken aback. However, his eyes regained their composure before long. From the moment he stepped onto the path of cultivation, Su Zimo knew that he would definitely meet Chen Mengqi again. However, he did not expect that it would be on such an occasion and today. 4 years ago, Chen Mengqi left resolutely and Su Zimo suffered a huge blow. He could still remember that heart-wrenching pain even till now. If not for Dai Yu's appearance, it would have been difficult for him to get out of that predicament within a short period of time. Initially, Su Zimo thought that he was filled with resentment towards Chen Mengqi. In fact, he had even imagined that if the two of them were to meet again, he would stand before Chen Mengqi and tell her proudly that there was nothing great about her world. However, things were different from what he had imagined. When he met Chen Mengqi again, Su Zimo was extremely calm and even carefree. Unknowingly, Chen Mengqi had already become a passerby in his life, an ordinary old friend. However, at that moment, Chen Mengqi's heart was filled with a myriad of emotions and her mouth felt bitter. It had been 4 years. He did not seem to have changed much. He was still dressed in green robes and exuded a scholarly aura. However, Chen Mengqi had just used her spirit-peering art and could naturally tell that Su Zimo was already a cultivator. Furthermore, he was a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator. How could this be? Suddenly, the atmosphere in the hall turned strange. Many disciples of Iridescent Cloud's palace knelt on the ground with bitter and confused expressions. When senior sister Shen entered the hall and caught sight of the green-robed cultivator, she became distracted and confused. It was the same for senior brother Su as he stared at the girl in pink non-stop. Nobody bothered about them at all. Chapter 192. Even though Su Zimo looked calm and composed, Demoness Ji still noticed that something was amiss. Her eyes shone with a strange glint, but she did not say anything. Su Zimo tapped his finger on the table to attract everyone's attention before saying slowly, "Tell me, why are you looking for my brother?" There were no pleasantries or greetings. Su Zimo's direct questioning left Shen Mengqi at a loss as a look of panic flashed through her eyes. Su Zimo's gaze shifted to Shen Nan, who was cowering at the side. Raising his brow, he asked, "Are you here for revenge?" Shen Nan shuddered when Su Zimo stared at him, shaking his head like a rattledrum. "It was your idea." After a slight pause, Su Zimo shifted his gaze to Shen Mengqi's face and asked coldly, "Or was it your idea?" And no. Shen Mengqi shook her head instinctively. She was a cultivator after all. Taking a deep breath, Shen Mengqi calmed herself down and explained, "It's just that 2 years ago, a junior brother of our sect might have gone missing in the country of Yen. We're here to take a look and ask the king of Yen for some information." "Oh, right. You know the missing person as well. He's from Pingyang town and his name is Zhou." At that point, Shen Mengqi suddenly paused. Looking at Su Zimo, Shen Mengqi seemed to have understood something. Before this, she had never thought that Zhou Dingyun's disappearance would have anything to do with Su Zimo. However, if Su Zimo was a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator, he should have been a cultivator 2 years ago as well. Furthermore, Su Zimo and Zhou Dingyun already had a feud to begin with. The truth of the matter was about to be revealed. 2 years ago, Zhou Dingyun returned to Pingyang town and wanted to find trouble with Su Zimo. However, he was killed by Su Zimo and all traces of him were erased. Shen Mengqi's guess was not far from the truth. 2 years ago, Su Zimo was not a cultivator yet, but he had the strength to kill Zhou Dingyun. At this moment, Shen Mengqi had already calmed down. Su Zimo had become a cultivator just like him. However, his spiritual root was not good enough, and his aptitude was not as good as his own. Moreover, he did not enter any great sect, and his future achievements would be far from his own. In Iridescent Cloud's palace, the people he befriended were all geniuses of the cultivation world. Su Zimo, on the other hand, had no background or influence. He could only hang around at the bottom of the cultivation world and could lose his life at any time. In the same 4 years, he had already reached the peak of the foundation establishment realm and opened up a meridian, while Su Zimo had only reached the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. This was the gap between them. Moreover, Shen Mengqi believed that as time passed, this gap would only grow bigger and bigger. Shen Mengqi was very sure. His decision back then was still correct. At this thought, Shen Mengqi regained her confidence and calmness. She smiled at Su Zimo and said, "You've changed a lot in the past few years." Su Zimo was about to speak when he felt a lotus root-like arm around his arm. A fragrance wafted over as Demoness Ji's voice sounded in his ears, "Zimo, who is this woman?" Shen Mengqi frowned. It was only at this moment that she noticed a girl in pink sitting beside Su Zimo. More importantly, be it in terms of looks or temperament, this girl in pink was definitely superior to her. Looking at how the girl in pink was hugging Su Zimo intimately, Shen Mengqi felt uncomfortable, as though something that belonged to her had been snatched away. Shen Mengqi looked at Demoness Ji and asked coldly, "Who are you? What do you think?" Demoness Ji smiled like a flower and squeezed towards Su Zimo's side. She raised her chin slightly and looked at Shen Mengqi in a threatening manner. Su Zimo removed Demoness Ji's arm and was about to speak when his heart skipped a beat. He felt a killing intent. "If the king of Yen is your elder brother, does that mean that you're Su Zimo?" When Su Yu saw that Demoness Ji was about to squeeze into the embrace of the green-robed cultivator, his eyes spat fire as he interjected with a murderous aura. Su Zimo asked instead, so what if I am? Were you the one who injured my fellow sect mates as well? Su Yu narrowed his eyes and asked again. Su Zimo nodded. That's right. All right, hand over your life then. Su Yu hollered and conjured hand seals with his hands, his eyes turning cold. All of a sudden. In a flash, Chen Mengqi stood in front of Su Yu and frowned, whispering, Senior brother Su, let's forget about this. I'm afraid there's a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Su Yu's expression darkened. He injured so many fellow sect mates of Iridescent Cloud's palace. Is this considered a misunderstanding? If this was in the past, Su Yu would not refute anything that Chen Mengqi said. But now, Su Yu was completely bewitched by Demoness Ji. He only knew that he had to kill the green-robed cultivator before him to possess Demoness Ji's body and mind. Chen Mengqi pursed her lips. I'll get him to apologize to all of you right now. Senior brother, please spare him this once. With that said, Chen Mengqi turned to Su Zimo and whispered, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and apologize. Suddenly, Su Zimo laughed with a mocking look in his eyes. You guys were the ones who came to provoke me and suffered. Why should I apologize? Frowning, Chen Mengqi glared at Su Zimo and hollered, Su Zimo, don't be ungrateful. I'm trying to save you. Oh? Su Zimo's smile did not diminish. Chen Mengqi continued, do you know about the 5 major sects? Do you know about Iridescent Cloud's palace? In the cultivation world, there are some people and factions that you can't afford to offend. Hurry up and apologize. At the side, Demoness Ji clapped her hands and laughed. Sister, you're right. In the cultivation world, there are some people and factions that you can't afford to offend. Fu. Su Yu laughed menacingly. Junior sister, you have to be sincere in your apology. I'll only spare him if Su Zimo kneels before me and kowtows 3 times obediently. In Su Yu's opinion, it might be better to humiliate Su Zimo in front of the girl in pink without killing him. Senior brother, isn't that a little too much? Chen Mengqi frowned slightly. Humph. Su Yu said coldly, this isn't over. Not only does Su Zimo have to kneel and apologize, his elder brother has to kneel before us as well. Senior brother, I'm begging you. This matter, there's no room for discussion. Right then, Su Zimo suddenly stood up and walked towards Su Yu expressionlessly. Thinking that Su Zimo had compromised and was here to apologize, Su Yu could not help but laugh smugly. At least you know what's good for you. How annoying. Su Zimo arrived before Su Yu and said something. Suddenly, he reached out and gripped Su Yu's throat with lightning speed. He squeezed forcefully. Crack! The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Su Yu's eyes were bloodshot and almost popped out as he looked at Su Zimo in disbelief. He had not expected that Su Zimo would dare to attack him. More than that, he had not expected that Su Zimo would dare to kill him. Furthermore, he was killed in a single strike without giving him any chance. Su Zimo released his grip and heaved a sigh of relief, murmuring softly, now, it's quiet. Su Yu's head tilted and he fell to the ground with a thud, he was dead. There was a dead silence in the hall. Complete silence. Chapter 193. Liang Hao, Lu Hongyi and the other disciples of Iridescent Cloud's palace knelt on the ground, trembling. They looked at Su Zimo with fear and their palms were sweating profusely. Shen Mengqi stood rooted to the ground, staring blankly at Su Yu who had died with grievances on the ground with a look of disbelief. Everything happened too quickly and Shen Mengqi's head buzzed as though it was about to explode in a chaotic manner. Su Zimo. How dare he? Is he crazy? Has he thought about the consequences? At the side, Demoness Ji narrowed her eyes and licked her lips. To be fair, Demoness Ji was the calmest among everyone present. Although she had not interacted with Su Zimo for a long time, she had a vague understanding of Su Zimo's temperament. This was a man who looked frail on the outside but had a ferocious heart. He was decisive in killing and would strike with a thunderous might without giving anyone a chance to catch their breath. Even the fiend heir of malevolent Earth's sect was killed by him. Yet, a mere cultivator of iridescent clouds' palace was still grumbling recklessly. Su Zimo, do you know what you're doing? Do you know how much trouble you've caused? Shen Mengqi glared at Su Zimo agitatedly and questioned him loudly. Su Zimo smiled, looking as though he did not care at all. Shen Mengqi was even angrier as she clenched her fists and shouted, I didn't expect that you're still so immature after 4 years. You might be able to escape for a moment because you're a cultivator. However, have you ever thought that your brother is in the capital of Yen country? Have you ever thought that you'll implicate your family? Su Zimo glanced sideways and waved his sleeves. A golden cloth floated over from the table in front of Su Hong, exuding a faint authority as though the emperor had descended to patrol the world. The emperor's edict. Shen Mengqi and the others recognized the origin of the golden cloth right away and were shocked. The status of the emperor of Great Zhou was much higher than theirs. Su Zimo said faintly, my big brother has the emperor's edict with him. Whoever dares to have any ideas about him is going against the emperor and the entire Great Zhou dynasty. Everyone from Iridescent Cloud's palace remained silent. Besides, the grudges of the cultivators should not be blamed on mortals. Pausing for a moment, Su Zimo swept his gaze across the Iridescent Cloud's palace crowd before finally landing on Shen Mengqi's face. He slowly said, whoever dares to have designs on my big brother and break the rules first, I'm sorry. I'll slaughter his entire family. As soon as he finished speaking, a shocking baleful aura burst out from Su Zimo's body. It was almost tangible, causing people's hearts to tremble. The temperature in the entire hall plummeted. Liang Hao and the others trembled and hurriedly avoided Su Zimo's gaze, not daring to meet his eyes. In Shen Mengqi's eyes, the current Su Zimo had suddenly become extremely unfamiliar, completely becoming a person she did not know. How was this a frail scholar? This was clearly a demon god from hell bathed in blood, a bloodthirsty and violent ancient demon. That feeling was fleeting, as though it was an illusion. In the cultivation world, although there were no rules set out on the surface, many cultivators had a tacit understanding that they would try their best not to implicate mortals in their grudges. Taking a deep breath, Shen Mengqi composed herself and continued, all right, even if no one comes looking for trouble with your big brother, you'll have to account for killing a disciple of Iridescent Cloud's palace. From now on, you'll be on the run without a fixed residence and live in fear every day. Is that what you want? Su Zimo smiled and looked at Shen Mengqi calmly, asking instead, who said that I'll be homeless? Even now, you're still stubborn. Shen Mengqi looked at Su Zimo in disappointment. Iridescent Cloud's palace is one of the 5 major sects of the Great Zhou dynasty. As long as you're within the borders of the Great Zhou dynasty, who can protect you? Which sect would dare to take you in? Su Zimo, wake up. Piak. Right then, Su Zimo withdrew a long badge from his storage bag and threw it on the table beside him. I forgot to tell you that I'm a disciple of Misty Peak. It's no big deal for me to kill someone from Iridescent Cloud's palace. Naturally, Misty Peak will protect me. Shen Mengqi stared fixedly at the identity badge on the table and bit her cherry lips, stunned on the spot. She could no longer say the words that she had prepared. Misty Peak. After 4 years, Su Zimo had joined one of the 5 major sects, Misty Peak. From the moment she saw Su Zimo, Shen Mengqi had been looking down on Su Zimo with a condescending attitude. However, all of a sudden, Shen Mengqi realized that Su Zimo seemed to possess the same thing that she was relying on. Her pride seemed to have become worthless. In 4 years, not only did the gap between the two of them not widen, it narrowed instead. What comforted Shen Mengqi was that she was still superior to Su Zimo in terms of cultivation realm. I'm at Misty Peak. I'll take on whoever wants revenge. Su Zimo's tone was calm, as though he was talking about something insignificant. After a moment of silence, Shen Mengqi looked at Su Zimo with a complicated expression. She turned back and said, "Let's go back to the sect." With that said, Chen Mengqi walked towards Liang Hao and Lu Hongyi, wanting to help them up. The two of them looked at Su Zimo carefully. When they saw that the latter was expressionless and did not object, they endured the pain and stood up. Everyone from Iridescent Cloud's palace supported one another and left the King of Yan's bedroom. A gentle breeze blew and a chill came over their bodies. Unknowingly, everyone had already broken out in cold sweat. It was only when they walked out of the door that everyone heaved a sigh of relief, feeling as though they had survived a calamity. They were all Foundation establishment cultivators, but for some reason, everyone felt their chests tighten in front of Su Zimo. It was as though they were shrouded by an inexplicable ferocity and did not even dare to breathe loudly. Chen Mengqi whispered to everyone from Iridescent Cloud's palace, "Leave the palace first. I'll chase after you later. Senior Sister Chen, don't go and fight that Su Zimo. What if?" Lu Hongyi's heart skipped a beat as he persuaded hurriedly. The others nodded repeatedly with fearful expressions as well. It would be fine if Chen Mengqi won. However, if she lost, they were worried that they would be implicated and lose their lives here. "Senior Sister Chen, spare him this once. There will be many chances to take his life in the future." While another person persuaded, he also flattered Chen Mengqi subtly. "Don't worry, I'll be right back." "I won't fight with him," Chen Mengqi revealed a reassuring smile and turned to leave. Arriving before Su Zimo, Chen Mengqi glared at him and said coldly, "Come out. I have something to tell you." With that, Chen Mengqi turned and walked outside. Chen Mengqi's tone caused Su Zimo to frown. "What's the matter? Why are you being so mysterious that you have to hide it from us?" Demoness Ji's gaze darted between Su Zimo and Chen Mengqi as she asked meaningfully. Clang! Clang! Right then, Su Zimo rapped his fingers on the table. "If you have anything to say, say it here." Su Zimo did not stand up and said calmly with a lowered gaze. Chen Mengqi paused in her tracks with her back facing Su Zimo. Her expression changed continuously as she grit her teeth and turned around slowly. Chapter 194. Chen Mengqi said, "Thank you for not holding a grudge against my brother and sparing his life." Su Zimo said, "Thank you for your reminder back then. Take it as me returning the favor." Seeing this scene, everyone in the Su family was filled with emotions. They had watched Su Zimo and Chen Mengqi grow up. The two of them were childhood sweethearts. When they met again 4 years later, there was no joy in their reunion. They did not deliberately distance themselves from each other. They only thanked each other politely and calmly. Of course, only Chen Mengqi understood the meaning of these two sentences. Everyone else was confused and did not know the inside story. 4 years ago, before the two of them parted, Chen Mengqi caught up with Su Zimo and said something. One of the sentences was, "Zhou Dingyun and I will leave Pingyang town with perfected person tomorrow." This sentence seemed like nothing. However, if one thought about it carefully, one would realize that there was no need to mention Zhou Dingyun in this sentence. At that time, perfected Song Lang was standing in mid-air and Chen Mengqi did not dare to remind him too obviously. However, she believed that with Su Zimo's shrewdness, he would definitely be able to understand the hidden meaning of this sentence. In fact, this was indeed the case. After Su Zimo returned to the mansion, he began to pretend to be drunk. He successfully confused Zhou Dingyun and scared him off. Of course, even without Chen Mengqi's reminder, Zhou Dingyun would not be able to succeed with Dayu around. After a moment of silence, Chen Mengqi asked, "Did you kill Zhou Dingyun?" "Yes." Su Zimo did not hide the truth. He had even killed Su Yu. Naturally, he did not care about killing Zhou Dingyun. "Zimo, although you are a disciple of Misty Peak, I still want to say that you were too reckless just now." Chen Mengqi said, "If you did not kill Su Yu, I would have helped you to hide Zhou Dingyun's matter. This way, at least you would not be on bad terms with Iridescent Cloud's palace. But now, you killed Su Yu in front of everyone. I can't help you to hide it even if I want to. Why do I have to hide it?" Su Zimo asked. Ha! Chen Mengqi was stunned. Su Zimo said calmly, if I want to hide this matter, the simplest way is to kill all of you. Chen Mengqi was shocked. Looking at Su Zimo's eyes, she had a feeling that Su Zimo was not joking. Su Zimo continued, I didn't kill you because I didn't plan on hiding this matter. Naturally, I'm not afraid of becoming enemies with Iridescent Cloud's palace. Recalling perfected being Tsang Lang's face, a killing intent flashed through Su Zimo's eyes. Furthermore, I've long been on bad terms with Iridescent Cloud's palace. Hearing this, Chen Mengqi's heart skipped a beat. She seemed to have thought of something. Frowning, she asked, Su Zimo, you're not still thinking of taking revenge on my master, are you? Oh, is perfected Tsang Lang your master? Su Zimo smiled with a mocking expression and said, how unfortunate. Go back and tell him to live well. One day, I will personally take his life. Su Zimo, that's enough. Chen Mengqi was a little agitated as she questioned loudly, just because of that horse of yours, you want to kill my master? That horse? Su Zimo stood up slowly with a cold glint in his eyes. A thick malevolent aura spread out with that simple action. Arriving before Chen Mengqi, Su Zimo glared at her with a gaze as sharp as a knife. In fact, Chen Mengqi even had an illusion that Su Zimo's gaze was truly piercing her. Instinctively, she took half a step back. At that moment, she had even forgotten that her cultivation realm was higher than Su Zimo's. Su Zimo said coldly, if not for Zhui Feng, I would have been the one who died back then. Your master wanted my life back then. Chen Mengqi could not refute that. She had seen everything that had happened back then. If not for the fact that Zhui Feng was psychic and managed to escape in time, Su Zimo would have been burned to ashes as well. Taking a deep breath of air, Chen Mengqi raised her head and looked straight at Su Zimo, saying in a deep voice, after not seeing you for 4 years, I didn't expect you to become so arrogant, ignorant and overestimating yourself. What right do you have to seek revenge on my master as a foundation establishment cultivator? As time passes, your cultivation realm and strength will increase. However, my master will not remain stagnant. His strength will increase as well. You will never be able to catch up to him and you will never be able to seek revenge. Pausing for a moment, Chen Mengqi sneered, also, just now, I haven't attacked you. It's not because I can't defeat you, it's because I don't want to fight you on account of our past relationship. However, don't push your luck. Do you think that you have the strength to defeat me, a perfected foundation establishment cultivator, just because you killed senior brother Su with a sneak attack? Su Zimo looked at Chen Mengqi calmly. At this distance, he had 100 ways to defeat Chen Mengqi. Sadly, truly ignorant people did not know that they were ignorant. Seemingly unsatisfied, Chen Mengqi continued, Su Zimo, there are way too many geniuses in the cultivation world and there are countless people stronger than you. You're nothing. Given your cultivation, you're not even qualified to participate in the sect competition organized by the Great Zhou dynasty. That's a grand banquet in the cultivation world where top foundation establishment cultivators will spar. When she heard that, Demoness Ji could no longer hold it in and burst into laughter, interrupting Chen Mengqi. What are you laughing at? Chen Mengqi asked coldly. Demoness Ji ignored her completely and looked around as though she was searching for something. I heard a frog at the bottom of a well calling out earlier on. How annoying! Chen Mengqi's expression darkened as she placed her palm on her storage bag and said coldly, who are you calling a frog in a well? Demoness Ji noticed Chen Mengqi's actions and smiled gently. It's fine if you're a frog in a well, but to think that you're a frog in a well who thinks that you're infallible, bragging to others about how big the sky is. What a joke. Alright. Chen Mengqi harumphed coldly and hollered, I'll show you the capabilities of a frog in a well then. The moment she said that, Chen Mengqi conjured hand seals with her left hand and slapped her storage bag with her right, causing a flying sword to appear in her palm. Boom! A vibration sounded from within Chen Mengqi's body. Immediately after, a meridian shone brightly like a divine dragon and roared within Chen Mengqi's body, emitting rich spirit qi. It was one of the 8 extraordinary meridians. The spirit-peering art could only detect that a cultivator was at perfected foundation establishment, but it could not determine how many meridians they had unlocked. The more meridians they unlocked, the richer their spirit energy and the stronger their strength. It was clear that Chen Mengqi had unlocked a spirit meridian. Swash! The moment Chen Mengqi made her move, a pink figure flashed and appeared before her instantly. Demoness Ji reached out with her left hand and grabbed Chen Mengqi's left wrist with lightning speed. Chen Mengqi's expression changed and her left arm went numb. The spirit energy in her meridians was sluggish and she could not circulate it. The next moment, Chen Mengqi felt a chill on her neck and a slight pain as cold air entered her body. Chen Mengqi's expression was terrible as she froze on the spot, not daring to move at all. Demoness Ji closed in and said with a smile, "Believe me when I say that you're a frog in a well. If someone like you really enters the ancient battlefield, you'll only be waiting to die." Chapter 195. Chen Mengqi's face was pale as she panted slightly, not daring to refute. Although Demoness Ji was smiling, her smile was very beautiful. As a woman, Chen Mengqi could sense a hint of killing intent and hostility from Demoness Ji's smile. The two of them had never met before and there was no grudge between them. However, there was only a single possibility for the girl in pink to want to kill her. It was because of Su Zimo. Chen Mengqi's gaze shifted to Su Zimo. Her emotions were complicated and she felt an inexplicable sense of bitterness. Why? What did Su Zimo have that made this woman who surpassed her in terms of looks and strength fall in love with him? In reality, the relationship between Su Zimo and Demoness Ji was not what Chen Mengqi had imagined. However, Su Zimo could not be bothered to explain and there was no need for that either. "Let her go," Su Zimo said indifferently. Demoness Ji glanced sideways and looked at Su Zimo calmly. A look of mockery flashed through her eyes as she asked with a smile, "Why? You can't bear to?" Su Zimo frowned. "All right, I'll listen to you." Demoness Ji changed her tone immediately and said coquettishly. Letting go of Chen Mengqi, she returned to Su Zimo's side and stood there prettily. Chen Mengqi felt the chill at her neck dissipate and heaved a long sigh of relief. Unknowingly, she was drenched in sweat. After this turn of events, Chen Mengqi no longer had the face to stay here. Harumphing coldly, she turned to leave. Summoning her flying sword, she soared into the air. Turning back, Chen Mengqi looked at the green-robed man in the palace behind her with a conflicted expression. She would never have thought that after 4 years, the two of them would meet again under such circumstances. Could I have been wrong back then? If I had not chosen to leave Pingyang town with Master, would I have followed Zimo and joined Misty Peak to cultivate? No, I wasn't wrong. Chen Mengqi took a deep breath and muttered to herself with a determined gaze, "I will prove myself at the sect competition. I will prove that I made the right choice back then. At that highly anticipated cultivation event, I'll obtain unparalleled glory for my sect and make a name for myself in the great Zhou dynasty before entering the ancient battlefield. As for you, you'll just be a spectator." Outside the King of Yan's bedroom, Su Zimo stood on the stone steps not far away. With his hands behind his back, he stood against the wind and his black hair fluttered gently. Demoness Ji moved gracefully and arrived behind Su Zimo. Her eyes burned with the flames of gossip as she asked, "Who was that person?" Su Zimo acted as if he didn't hear anything. "Tsk," she pouted her lips. "Even if you don't say it, I can guess that it's your old flame, right?" Su Zimo's expression changed as he glanced sideways at Demoness Ji. "What I'm most curious about right now is why did she leave you back then?" Demoness Ji could not figure it out. Resting her chin with her petite hand, she frowned. "At the very least, you're already very strong among the younger generation. I don't believe that there's anyone in Iridescent Cloud's palace who can surpass you. Why did that woman leave you? Isn't that a stupid choice?" I was rather ordinary back then, Su Zimo replied. I don't believe it. She shook her head. She must have had bad taste. Pausing for a moment, she smiled smugly. However, that makes me seem even more impressive. My discerning eyes made me choose you right away, hee hee. However, Su Zimo did not laugh and asked instead, what exactly do you want after following me for so long? Perhaps you haven't realized it yourself, but your personality is closer to that of a fiend. Demoness G looked at Su Zimo meaningfully and said in a deep voice, you abhor evil and are decisive in killing. Actually, you're suited to cultivate in the fiend sections. That's your motive? Su Zimo shook his head. I'm not suited for the fiend sections. Why do you say that? Su Zimo gazed into the distance and said indifferently, the path I want to take is different from others. Even the fiend sects might not be able to accommodate me. At that moment, she suddenly realized that she could not understand Su Zimo anymore. What path do you want to take? She asked instinctively. Su Zimo did not explain. After thinking for a moment, he changed the topic and asked, just now, what's the ancient battlefield you mentioned? You know that the Great Zhou dynasty holds a sect competition every 10 years, right? Yes, Su Zimo nodded. 2 years ago, Ji Yaoshua mentioned this. It was a grand event in the Great Zhou dynasty where all the sects of the dynasty would gather to spar. Cultivation realms were only limited to those below Jin Dan realm. In other words, it was a contest between foundation establishment cultivators. The Great Zhou dynasty would create 4 lists: spirit, talisman, elixir, and weapon. There were only 10 spots on each list and the competition was intense. However, it also meant that it was the best chance to make a name for oneself. Furthermore, the Great Zhou dynasty would reward the cultivators on the 4 lists handsomely. It was said that there was an additional mysterious reward. Demoness G continued, actually, the mysterious reward is to cultivate for a year in the ancient battlefield. Cultivate for a year? Su Zimo frowned slightly. Demoness G smiled. Don't underestimate that 1 year. Even if you cultivate outside for 10 or 100 years, you might not be able to match a year in the ancient battlefield. There are countless treasures within and many lost cultivation techniques, elixir recipes, talismans, and even weapon refinement techniques can be found within. The opportunities within are unimaginable for you right now. Su Zimo's blood boiled and he was shocked. Demoness G continued, there are some things that you might not know. Back then, the founder master of True Fire sect obtained a lost fire-type secret skill in the ancient battlefield. From there, he established True Fire sect and became one of the 5 major sects of the Great Zhou dynasty. One of the 3 great secret skills of Misty Peak was obtained from the ancient battlefield as well. It's not an exaggeration to say that all geniuses of Tianhuang mainland have to make their way in there. Those who can return alive are true paragons. If they die in there. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he recalled the terrifying expert of Misty Peak. That person had said that the Void Lightning incantation was obtained from an ancient ruin. Suddenly, a question flashed through Su Zimo's mind as he asked, since the ancient battlefield is so good, why don't we send perfected Jin Dan or Jining Jinjuan in? Wouldn't we have a higher chance of obtaining treasures and inheritances that way? Demoness G explained, actually, every single ancient battlefield is a remnant of the ancient era and forms its own dimension. For the most basic ancient battlefield, only foundation establishment cultivators can be teleported in. Furthermore, many void reversions have to join forces to break through the spatial barrier. Given the strength of the Great Zhou dynasty, they can only teleport dozens of foundation establishment cultivators at most. That's why they organize the sect competition. Su Zimo said in a low voice, in that case, only Jin Dan cultivators can enter the intermediate ancient battlefield? Yes. Demoness G nodded. However, there's no one in the Great Zhou dynasty who has the strength to send Jin Dan cultivators into the intermediate ancient battlefield. Think about it, if many void reversions have to join forces to break through the spatial barrier of the basic ancient battlefield, what sort of cultivation realm would they need to break through the intermediate ancient battlefield's passageway? Chapter 196. Demonis G said, "Of course, if you're considering joining the fiend sects, you won't have to worry about such things. Be it at Foundation Establishment or Jean Dan Realm, the fiend sects have the ability to send you into the ancient battlefield. It all depends on how many opportunities you can obtain inside and whether you can return alive." Su Zimo shook his head and chuckled. Demonis G had gone through a lot of trouble to come back and invite him to join the fiend sections. When she saw Su Zimo's reaction, she knew the outcome and was not disappointed. Shrugging her shoulders, she said, "It's fine. If you change your mind, you can come to the fiend sects at any time." Su Zimo nodded. She continued, "However, I have to remind you that although there are many opportunities in the ancient battlefield, there are great dangers as well. Some of them come from the ancient battlefield itself, while others come from other cultivators. Although you've defeated the fiend heirs, you have to know that it was because of the existence of the ancient spirit block formation that they could not unleash their full strength." Su Zimo was well aware of that. If not for the ancient spirit block formation, he would not have been a match for the fiend heirs. According to Su Zimo's conjecture, the fiend heirs, including Demonis G, had unlocked at least 4 spirit meridians. The ancient battlefield is the true clash of the Foundation Establishment geniuses of Tianhuang mainland. The world outside of the Great Zhou dynasty is way too vast and there are many unknown places and unknown experts. You might encounter legacy disciples of the 9 immortal sects inside. There are top spirit demons from the 8 demon regions. Most of them are mutated ferocious beasts with extraordinary bloodlines and powerful strength. There are also the 7 fiend sects, 6 Buddhist monasteries, 4 unorthodox groups, 3 aristocratic families and legacy disciples of the various top factions of Tianhuang mainland. All of them are peerless paragons." When he heard that, Su Zimo suddenly frowned. When Demonis G mentioned the 6 Buddhist monasteries and 4 unorthodox groups, she paused for a moment, as though she had reservations. Immortal sects, demons, fiend sects, Buddhist monasteries, unorthodox groups and aristocratic families, each of them sounded like a faction that had a long history. According to the deductions of the 9 immortal sects, the 8 demon regions, and the 7 demonic sects, there should be another sect between the 6 Buddhist monasteries and the 4 unorthodox groups. Right then, Demonis G said, "With so many geniuses gathered in the ancient battlefield, less than 30% of them will be able to make it out alive a year later." Su Zimo was shocked. This number was completely beyond his expectations. This meant that more than half of them would die in the primordial battlefield. She looked at Su Zimo and said, "To be fair, your melee combat strength is indeed strong. However, given your current strength, your chances of survival in the ancient battlefield are 0. Su Zimo did not refute. He trusted Demonis G's judgment. However, this sentence did not affect Su Zimo's confidence. There were still 3 years until the sect competition. To Su Zimo, there was enough time to raise his strength by a large margin. Right now, Su Zimo had attained greater mastery of the marrow cleansing section. Within 3 years, as long as Su Zimo attained greater mastery of the organs refinement section, he believed that there would not be many people who could match him in melee combat. If he attained greater mastery of orifice clearing, Su Zimo was confident that he could sweep through anyone below Jean Dan in melee combat. In terms of immortality cultivation, Su Zimo was now at mid-stage Foundation Establishment. With Ethereal Foundation Establishment as his foundation, he should be able to reach Perfected Foundation Establishment within 3 years. After unlocking a few spirit meridians, coupled with secret skills such as his sword formation, Fiend Suppression Seal and Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, Su Zimo might not be able to dominate and suppress geniuses in the ancient battlefield. However, it should not be an issue for him to protect himself. "Since you're unwilling to join the fiend sects, I won't bother you here," Demonis G looked at Su Zimo and said with a smile. Su Zimo asked, "You're leaving?" "Yes," Demonis G nodded before turning to look at Su Zimo with a fake smile. "Why? You can't bear to part with me?" "No, I just wanted to say that if you're leaving, hurry up, humph." Demonis G stomped on Su Zimo's foot heavily and raised her chin smugly before turning to leave. Halfway through, she suddenly turned back and declared, "Hey, if you see my sister, don't tell her that I'm from the fiend sections." That might not be the case, Su Zimo scoffed coldly and turned to leave as well. He had barely taken a few steps when Demoness G's slightly aggrieved voice sounded, "If you tell anyone, I'll tell my sister that you bullied me in the coffin." Su Zimo's legs turned to jelly and he nearly fell. That damned lass. Su Zimo's mouth twitched as he cursed internally. "Hurry, let's go." Su Zimo waved it off hurriedly without turning back. Demoness G pursed her lips into a smile and her fragrance dissipated with the wind. In the following period of time, Su Zimo was not in a hurry to leave and return to the sect. Instead, he continued to stay in the palace. When he had nothing to do, he would accompany his brother, Su Hong, to drink and chat. It was quite a comfortable life. A month later, Su Zimo was prepared to leave the capital. To be fair, there were few cultivators like Su Zimo who would take the time to return home and spend time with their families. Furthermore, he would be staying for more than a month. Most cultivators would choose to sever their ties with the mortal world right away. It wasn't because they were heartless and cold, but because they knew that this day would come sooner or later. The earlier they severed their ties with the mortal world, it was beneficial for their cultivation. Su Zimo understood that logic as well. However, he could not do it. Before they parted, Su Hong sent Su Zimo out of the city before stopping in his tracks and reminding, "Zimo, if you don't have time, don't rush back. You don't have to worry about me." Even though he said that, there was still a hint of reluctance in the depths of Su Hong's eyes. "I can't help you much. You're alone outside. Take care of yourself." Su Zimo looked at his brother's head of white hair and pursed his lips in silence, feeling terrible. In the cultivation world, the most precious elixirs were those that could increase one's lifespan. There was a price but no supply. After a few decades, they would have to part in life and death. Su Zimo did not dare to think about it. As though he recalled something, Su Hong said hurriedly, "Zimo, if there's a chance, go and see Xiaoning and see if she's doing well in recent years. Xiaoning has a soft personality. Even if she's wronged, she'll probably keep it to herself and not say it out." "All right. There's nothing else." Su Hong's gaze lowered as he murmured softly, "Brother, take care." After a long silence, Su Zimo finally spoke with a slightly hoarse voice. Let's go, let's go." Su Hong turned around and waved his hands. "Second young master, why you take care too?" Uncle Zheng stood on the spot, his voice trembling as tears streamed down his old face. When the Su family was in trouble, Su Zimo and Su Xiaoning were still young and Uncle Zheng had practically raised them bit by bit. In Uncle Zheng's eyes, Su Zimo was his own child. He was already old and did not know if he would be able to see Su Zimo the next time. This might be their final farewell. As though he sensed something, Su Zimo suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned to face Uncle Zheng. Pursing his lips, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times solemnly. 4 years ago, perfected being Tsang Lang's immortal might did not crush that young man's spine or make him bend his knees. 4 years later, Su Zimo knelt down in front of an old man with white hair and beard, kowtowing to bid farewell. Standing at a high spot, Su Zimo looked over and could not help but gasp. There were too many of them. They were densely packed and covered the entire mountain, making one's scalp tingle. If not for the wolf pack surrounding the cave, Su Zimo would definitely choose to retreat and not provoke this pack of demon beasts. However, Su Zimo and the spirit monkey were the only ones who knew about this cave. It was impossible for Su Zimo to leave before confirming the spirit monkey's safety. There were hundreds of wolf corpses at the entrance of the cave. Most of the blood had dried up. Only a few wolf corpses had their skulls smashed and looked like they had died not long ago. Although he was far away, Su Zimo could still see clearly that most of the dead wolves had suffered fatal injuries to their heads. They seemed to have been smashed by blunt objects like rods. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes as he stared at the dark and gloomy entrance of the cave. If he was not wrong, the spirit monkey should be inside. Logically speaking, given the spirit monkey's alertness, it should have fled long ago once this place was exposed. Why would it be trapped here by such a large pack of wolves? Moreover, this pack of wolves was a little strange. They did not swarm forward but chose to wait for a while. Su Zimo did not dare to act rashly. Instead, he hugged the ancient tree and patrolled the pack of wolves. Such a large pack of wolves was disciplined and orderly. There must be a wolf king around. If this wolf king was a Jin Dan realm spirit demon, Su Zimo would definitely not fight it head-on. However, if this wolf king was only a Foundation Establishment realm spirit demon, Su Zimo could ride on his flying sword and barge into the pack of wolves. He could go on a killing spree and try to force the wolf king to retreat or even kill it. That was because Su Zimo had an advantage that a Foundation Establishment realm spirit demon did not have. Sword Kinesis Flight. As long as Su Zimo could use Sword Kinesis Flight, he would be invincible no matter how many wolves there were. However, if the Wolf King was a Jin Dan realm spirit demon, Su Zimo would not dare to barge in. Be it for humans or demons, core formation was an extremely crucial step. As the saying went, once a Jin Dan was swallowed, one would know that one's fate was no longer in the hands of the heavens. Once a spirit demon formed a core, it would be able to leave the ground and soar into the sky without the help of external objects. This meant that even if the wolves did not have wings, they could fly and Su Zimo's advantage would be gone. Furthermore, Su Zimo was not a match for a Jin Dan realm spirit demon, they were on completely different levels. If the other party was a cultivator who did not cultivate any concealment techniques and their cultivation realms were not too far apart, one could use the spirit-peering art to detect the other party's cultivation realm with ease. However, the spirit-peering art was useless against spirit demons. That was because there was no spirit energy in the bodies of spirit demons. Before a spirit demon made a move, one could only deduce its cultivation base based on experience, feelings, and observation. At the front of the pack of wolves stood more than 10 taller and stronger wolves. They were ferocious as they paced back and forth, none of the other wolves dared to step forward. Su Zimo nodded to himself. If he was not wrong, those wolves were all Foundation Establishment realm spirit demons. They had a high status in the wolf pack and were similar to the leaders. However, after observing for a while, he realized that none of the wolves looked like true wolf kings. Su Zimo continued searching. All of a sudden, Su Zimo's gaze paused on a towering green rock. A wolf sprawled on the green rock. It was not huge and was about the same height as the many spirit beast level wolves below, there was nothing special about it. However, Su Zimo concluded after pondering for a moment that this was the true wolf king. Among the tens of thousands of wolves, this was the only one that dared to sprawl. Furthermore, it had a lazy expression and its eyes were half closed, as though it was taking a nap. Chapter 198. Just as Su Zimo's gaze landed on the Wolf King, it suddenly moved as if it sensed something. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. His gaze was extremely obscure and the dozens of Foundation Establishment wolves did not notice it at all. If this Wolf King sensed something, there was an 80% chance that it was a Jin Dan realm spirit demon. Su Zimo observed for a while more. The Wolf King merely moved a little and did not do anything else. It did not even open its eyes, as if it was just adjusting its posture to make itself more comfortable. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief. Roar! Right then, 5 spirit demon wolves growled and walked towards the entrance of the cave slowly with ferocious expressions. The entrance of the cave was narrow. The 5 wolves did not dare to enter rashly and could only linger at the entrance. Ow, ow! Before long, a familiar howl could be heard from the entrance of the cave. It was filled with provocation. Su Zimo's eyes lit up and he no longer had any doubts. That was the voice of the spirit monkey. The spirit monkey was very smart. It occupied the terrain and guarded the entrance of the cave so that it could defeat the wolf pack one by one. However, this was only a temporary measure. The spirit monkey had to be constantly on guard against the sneak attacks of the wolf pack and could not relax at all. If this continued, the spirit monkey would not be able to hold on any longer. After all, there were tens of thousands of wolves and the spirit monkey could not hold on alone. Upon hearing the spirit monkey's provocation, the 5 wolves at the entrance of the cave did not fall for it. Instead, they continued to linger at the entrance with a ferocious glint in their eyes. Su Zimo's gaze landed on the Wolf King on the green rock again. If this Wolf King was a Jin Dan realm spirit demon, the spirit monkey would have died long ago and would not have lasted till now. At the thought of this, Su Zimo no longer hesitated. He put on the mystic gold silk armor and leaped down from the ancient tree. While he was still in mid-air, a flying sword appeared beneath his feet. Swash! A sword beam cut through the air. Su Zimo passed through the dense wolf pack, ignoring the howls of the wolf pack below as he sped towards the entrance of the cave. At the same time, the Wolf King on the green rock opened its eyes and narrowed them into long slits. A cunning and ferocious glint danced in its eyes. Whoosh! 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 Su Zimo hovered in mid-air with a calm expression and clear eyes. With a wave of his sleeve, 6 sword beams flew out from his bag of holding. Hexagonal sword formation. Su Zimo shouted as he controlled the 6 flying swords. They quickly streaked through the air, and the sword chi left behind marks, forming a huge hexagonal sword array. Wang! The light of the formation pattern burst forth, dazzling the eyes. Clang! 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 Su Zimo controlled the gigantic sword formation to envelop the 5 wolves that were wandering at the entrance of the cave. Wherever the sword formation passed, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Sword chi was like frost, and killing intent filled the air. Roar! One of the wolves did not know how powerful it was. With a ferocious expression, it roared and leaped up. It extended a pair of sharp claws and pounced at the hexagonal sword formation. Clang! 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 The sword formation collided with the wolf claws, producing a crisp sound. Then, blood mist filled the air, and severed limbs flew everywhere. A spirit demon wolf was killed on the spot by the hexagonal sword formation. Damned monkey, come on out. I'll bring you out of this place. Su Zimo shouted loudly as he controlled the hexagonal sword formation to chase after the other 4 wolves. After a short pause, a tall figure suddenly dashed out of the pitch-black cave entrance. It carried a pitch-black rod and its arms were extremely long, almost reaching the ground. When the spirit monkey caught sight of Su Zimo, its monkey eyes widened in joy. Immediately after, the spirit monkey seemed to have thought of something and its joy turned into panic. Ow! Ow! The spirit monkey's fur stood on end as it gestured behind Su Zimo, howling loudly. At the same time, Su Zimo felt a strong sense of danger. His expression changed as he cursed internally. Before he could turn back, an evil gust of wind blew from behind. Right now, Su Zimo was traveling on his sword. If a wolf could appear behind him, there was only one possibility. This wolf was a Jin Dan realm spirit demon and could soar into the air. I've been tricked. Su Zimo recalled the lazy Wolf King on the green rock. Back then, when his gaze landed on the Wolf King moved slightly. Su Zimo had thought that it was just a coincidence. But now, Su Zimo was enlightened. The Wolf King's movement was a subconscious reaction after sensing the aura. But immediately after, the Wolf King did not make a sound. It did not even open its eyes, pretending that it did not sense anything and continued to sleep, all so that it could lure him out. This kind of scheming, this kind of cunning, made people's hair stand on end and tremble with fear. A Jin Dan realm spirit demon could crush Su Zimo completely in terms of strength. There was no way he could fight against it. A frighteningly strong aura shrouded over. Su Zimo charged forward with all his might, circulating the mental cultivation technique of petrification. At the same time, he turned the hexagonal sword formation around and blocked behind him. Swoosh! The hexagonal sword formation spun continuously with a bedazzling sword beam. Like a gigantic mirror, it shielded Su Zimo's figure. A look of mockery flashed through the Wolf King's eyes. Stepping into the air, it reached out with a casual claw and slammed it heavily. Its sharp claws sliced across the surface of the sword formation. Bang! There was a deafening sound. The hexagonal sword formation stopped circulating and slammed against Su Zimo's back fiercely. Su Zimo's expression changed starkly as he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and fell from midair. The sword formation dissipated and cracks appeared on the 6 flying swords. Their lights dimmed and they were crippled. A Jin Dan realm spirit demon had actually destroyed 6 inferior-grade flying swords. How terrifying was that strength? Roar! Standing in midair, the Wolf King suddenly opened its mouth and bared its sinister fangs. Its scarlet tongue let out a deafening roar, causing the ancient trees to shake and rocks to fall. It was awe-inspiring and ferocious. The spirit monkey leaped up and hurriedly caught Su Zimo, who was falling from midair. It was about to turn and enter the cave. But at this moment, the cave behind the spirit monkey had already been sealed by many wolves. The Wolf King looked down at the man and monkey on the ground. Its eyes were filled with contempt and it did not continue attacking. The surrounding wolves started to gather towards the center, layer by layer. Ow! The spirit monkey supported Su Zimo with both hands and stuck its head out, baring its fangs and baring its fangs. Its eyes shone with a bloody light as it let out a threatening roar. Damned monkey, let me down. Right then, Su Zimo spoke in a weak voice. Ga. The spirit monkey was stunned for a moment and hurriedly helped Su Zimo up. Su Zimo flicked his sleeves to wipe away the bloodstains at the corners of his mouth. Taking a deep breath, he swallowed an elixir and adjusted his breathing slowly. His face was slightly pale. The strength of a Jin Dan realm spirit demon was way too strong. Even with the hexagonal sword formation and the mystic gold silk armor, Su Zimo's organs were still shaken violently and almost shifted. It was not hard to imagine that without the hexagonal sword formation and the mystic gold silk armor, Su Zimo would have been smashed into pieces. The man and wolf exchanged glances. The Wolf King raised its head proudly, as if it could not be bothered to attack again. It turned and walked towards the green stone. In the eyes of the Wolf King, Su Zimo would be severely injured even if he did not die from his palm strike. Coupled with the fact that he had lost his flying swords, the man and monkey would definitely die in the face of the wolf pack's attacks. Chapter 199. Su Zimo looked at the Wolf King on the green rock. Enduring the pain from his organs, he racked his brains, thinking of all possible ways to escape. The possibility was minuscule. Firstly, the Wolf King was way too strong. To Su Zimo, it was crushing and destructive, there was almost no possibility of resistance. Secondly, the Wolf King was way too fast. If not for the help of his spirit perception, Su Zimo would have died just now. His only chance of survival was in Su Zimo's blood-bone palm. To this day, Su Zimo still did not know what the blood-bone palm was. However, he knew that the blood-bone palm was indestructible and contained terrifying power. If he could hit the Wolf King's body, there was a high chance that it would be severely injured. Roar! The surrounding Foundation establishment wolves bared their fangs and lowered their heads. Their eyes shone fiercely as they let out a series of howls. Howl, howl. The wolves that covered the mountains and plains howled in unison. The sound was terrifying, and it startled countless birds. Su Zimo took a deep breath and forced a relaxed smile. Damned monkey, we're back to 2 years ago when we fought side by side. Ow, ow. Despite being in the midst of a pack of wolves that could lose its life at any moment, the spirit monkey was not afraid. Instead, it was extremely excited and its eyes were filled with joy. This joy came from the reunion with Su Zimo. Su Zimo could sense the spirit monkey's emotions and could not help but laugh. 2 years ago, we did not dare to fight these beasts head-on. It's a rare opportunity today. Let's kill to our heart's content. Damned monkey, let me see how much you've improved in the past 2 years. Roar! When the spirit monkey heard that, it roared. His bloodline surged within his body and his flesh expanded. The spirit monkey's body expanded and he swung his rod, taking the lead and charging into the pack of wolves. The rod was powerful and shocking. Although the wolf opposite him was also at the Foundation establishment realm, a hint of panic flashed in its eyes. It did not dare to take it head-on and dodged to the side. Poof! The wolves at the back were not so lucky. After being swept by the spirit monkey's rod, many wolves had their brains splattered and died on the spot. Crash! Su Zimo channeled his chi and blood, causing the tides in his body to roar with a frightening momentum. Streaks of azure lightning appeared on the surface of his skin, crackling chaotically and dazzling to the eyes. Crack! Su Zimo then swung his arm, and a pillar of lightning as thick as an arm exploded in the middle of the pack of wolves. Lightning shot out in all directions, and green smoke billowed. Under this terrifying power of thunder, the spirit beast-level wolves were electrocuted to death. The 2 Foundation realm wolves were also in a sorry state. Their fur curled up and their bodies trembled. Whoosh! 2 other Foundation establishment wolves pounced from the side. Their sharp claws glinted coldly as they bared their sharp fangs and bit viciously at Su Zimo's neck. If this bite landed, even with Su Zimo's powerful physical body, he would definitely not be able to withstand it. You're courting death. Su Zimo's eyes lit up. With a loud shout, he swung his left arm, drawing a huge arc in the air. Using his fist as a seal, he suddenly dropped down. Bang! The gigantic seal smashed heavily on the head of the wolf and the sound of bones cracking could be heard. Without a single sound, the Foundation establishment wolf fell from midair. On the surface, the wolf looked completely fine without any injuries. However, the inside of its head was already shattered by the tremendous force. At the same time, Su Zimo flipped his right hand and spread his fingers, slamming his palm against the chest of another wolf with a force that could shatter mountains. Sob! The wolf howled tragically and fell. Su Zimo closed in on it. Bang! Instantly, the Foundation establishment wolf was sent flying and its tendons and bones were broken. Before it landed on the ground, it was already dead. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo killed 2 Foundation establishment wolves in a row. His aura surged and he exuded a chilling killing intent, filling the air with a thick stench of blood. The spirit monkey swung his rod, swinging it with a ferocious aura that even water would not be able to penetrate. Piak! 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 The spirit monkey's gaze was ferocious. He was tall and had long arms and immense strength. Any wolf that was struck by his rod would either be injured or die. Behind the spirit monkey, Su Zimo had a calm expression. Even in such a situation, his eyes were still calm and there was no trace of panic. The 6 inferior-grade flying swords were shattered by the Jin Dan Realm Wolf King with a single slap. As for the Cold Moon Saber and Sanguine Crystal Bow, they were left in the inheritance ground of the Fiend sects and he did not have the time to bring them out. Right now, Su Zimo was fighting against the wolves barehanded. Even so, given Su Zimo's physical strength, the wolves were not able to defend against him. Bang! 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 Just a casual punch or kick had the power of a thunderbolt, causing the air to explode. Many wolves pounced forward in a dense pack and were about to drown Su Zimo. However, with a slight pause, the wolves were sent flying and fell to the ground, most likely dead. In the blink of an eye, the ground beneath the feet of the man and monkey was filled with wolf corpses. The killing continued. Out of more than 10 Foundation establishment wolves, there were only 9 left. The 9 wolves were extremely intelligent. They realized that their strength was not enough to threaten the man and monkey. Therefore, they paced around the periphery, waiting for an opportunity to strike. The wolves were very patient. In their opinion, be it the spirit monkey or the human, there would come a time when their strength would be exhausted. When the man and monkey's strength weakened and they were mentally exhausted, there would definitely be flaws in their defense. At that time, it would be the moment for them to launch a fatal attack. However, as time passed, the 9 wolves were disappointed. The spirit monkey was clearly fatigued. Its strength and speed were not as good as before. However, the flaws revealed by the spirit monkey were all compensated by the terrifying strength of the human. The human seemed to possess endless strength. Up till this point, his eyes were still clear and bright. His battle intent was high and his killing intent was surging. Not only that, he seemed to be getting braver as the battle progressed. The physique of this human was even stronger than theirs. This human was more like a true spirit demon. The wolves did not know that the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness was extremely powerful to begin with. In addition, Su Zimo had cultivated the Void Thunder Manual, the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and many other secret skills. He had reached the realm where his blood was like tidal waves and his voice was like thunder. His stamina was even more shocking. This pack of wolves could not threaten him at all. Although the wolves were demons, their bloodline was too ordinary. The reason why they could dominate the Tsanglang mountain range was entirely because of their massive numbers and superior intelligence. If not for the Jin Dan realm Wolf King watching from the side, Su Zimo would have charged out with the spirit monkey a long time ago. Although there were many wolves in the surroundings, they were like clay chickens and pottery dogs in front of Su Zimo. They could not withstand a single blow. Roar! Right then, the Wolf King stood up from the green rock and let out a deafening roar. The Wolf King could no longer sit still. Initially, it thought that since Su Zimo was severely injured, its tribesmen could easily surround and kill the man and monkey. It could even use this opportunity to train the combat strength of the wolf pack. However, as time passed, the Wolf King gradually realized that something was amiss. If this carried on, its tribesmen would suffer too many casualties. The Wolf King decided to attack personally and bite the man and monkey to death cleanly. Pest! 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 Sensing the Wolf King's actions, Su Zimo began to inhale slowly. A huge airflow passed through his throat, letting out a strange sound. The skin around his throat was torn by the airflow and traces of blood seeped out. Su Zimo knew that whether he could survive or not depended on this clash with the Wolf King. Chapter 200. Anaconda Eclipse. It was a secret skill from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. Su Zimo's chest puffed up at a speed visible to the naked eye in an extremely frightening manner. A scene seemed to flash through the eyes of many wolves. A gigantic anaconda coiled its body, rearing its head to devour the sun and moon. Legs grew beneath its abdomen and 2 horns on its head. It wanted to soar into the air and transform into a dragon. A look of mockery flashed through the eyes of the alpha. No matter what the human before him did, it was all to no avail. The difference between them was too great. Core formation was a complete suppression for Foundation establishment cultivators without any suspense. Since the primordial era, countless monster incarnates have appeared throughout the endless years. However, there were only a handful of geniuses who could kill living beings of core formation at Foundation establishment realm. Every single one of them was a terrifying expert whose name was left behind in history. The Alpha refused to believe that this weak human before it possessed such capabilities. Swoosh! The Alpha leaped and a gust of wind blew over. It was too fast. It was completely beyond Su Zimo's perception. Instinctively, Su Zimo closed his eyes and used his sharp spirit perception to determine the danger and the approximate location of the Alpha. The middle finger and thumb of his left hand interlocked to form a seal and the image of a fiend subduing appeared in his mind. Pressing forward, he hollered, "Kill!" Anaconda Eclipse combined with Thunderclap Kill and Fiend Suppression Seal burst forth instantly. In the process of fighting against the wolf pack, Su Zimo did not use those 3 trump cards the entire time, nor did he waste any spirit energy. It was all for this moment. However, those 3 trump cards were only used to confuse and obstruct the alpha for a moment. Even if it was only for a split second. Su Zimo's true killing move was on his right hand. Swash! Su Zimo used his right hand as a saber and stabbed forward. All 4 trump cards were used. The first to descend were Anaconda Eclipse and Thunderclap Kill. A deafening roar burst forth with the power of thunder, as though it wanted to topple the stars and shatter the world. The surrounding blue wolves revealed a trace of pain and subconsciously retreated. However, the alpha that was facing Thunderclap Kill did not pause in its actions at all. Suddenly, a scarlet air current burst forth from the alpha's chest and coiled around him. Accompanied by the sound of his bloodline circulating, the alpha's aura rose by a level. The might of core formation descended and demonic chi permeated the air in a soul-stirring manner. The alpha reached out with its claws and grabbed forward, shattering the golden palm seal that was descending from midair with ease. The Wolf King did not stop there and bit towards Su Zimo's neck with a ferocious expression. Right then, Su Zimo's right hand slashed over. The moment the Wolf King bit Su Zimo's neck, Su Zimo's right hand poked the Wolf King's body. Su Zimo's bodies, Su Zimo chi. Eclipse SS's was, Wolf SS was, however, the alpha was suspicious and cunning by nature and would definitely not take risks. Against Su Zimo's right hand, the alpha stopped in its tracks and swiped forward with its claws. The moment it made contact with Su Zimo's chest, it retreated in a flash. Bang! As though he was struck by lightning, Su Zimo fell backward uncontrollably with a pale face. The attack missed. The alpha was too fast and cautious. Not only did it avoid Su Zimo's right hand, it even seized the opportunity to severely injure the latter. Initially, it wanted to rip apart Su Zimo's stomach, but it was blocked by the mystic gold silk armor. The mystic gold silk armor was a broken Khanate spirit weapon after all. Even though it could defend against the sharpness of the wolf's claws, it could not defend against the power contained within. That gentle swipe without using its full strength had already caused a few bones in Su Zimo's chest to break. Even his organs were shaken violently and cracks appeared on the surface. Su Zimo coughed out fresh blood and sighed internally as he looked at the alpha that was closing in on him. There's no more chance. Even when the alpha was caught off guard, he did not succeed. But now, Su Zimo was severely injured and had lost his combat strength. There was no longer any chance for him to kill the alpha. If I were to attain greater mastery of the organs refinement section, my overall strength would rise significantly. Be it in terms of strength or reaction speed, there would be an increase. If I were to use just now, I might have a chance to kill him. It's just a pity. It was not that the plan did not work, but the difference in strength between the two parties was too great. The strength of a spirit demon that had formed a core was far beyond Su Zimo's imagination. On the other side, the spirit monkey was covered in injuries and fell to the ground. Its long rod was tossed aside and it was panting, it was exhausted as well. The alpha walked towards the man and monkey slowly, as though it was the ruler of the world. It stared at Su Zimo's right hand with a hint of scrutiny, doubt and curiosity. What was it that could cause it to feel fear? Was it a hallucination? After the alpha decided to bite Su Zimo to death, it would take a look at what this human's right hand was. Howl howl. The surrounding wolves howled into the skies with excited expressions, waiting for the final kill. The alpha strode over and stuck its massive head in front of Su Zimo. A nauseating stench came out of its mouth and nose, and the sticky saliva in its mouth dripped onto Su Zimo's body. Su Zimo no longer had the strength to resist and merely glared at the alpha coldly. The alpha's face was filled with disdain as it opened its massive mouth and bared its fangs. Just as it was about to bite down, its expression changed starkly and the ferocity in its eyes turned into fear. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. Before he had time to react, he felt a tyrannical wave of energy coming out from the cave behind him, suddenly bursting out. For a moment, Su Zimo had an illusion. The entire world seemed to have come to a standstill. The world was filled with a murderous aura and the atmosphere was stifling. It was so silent that one could even hear a pin drop. It was as though all living beings were choked by an invisible force and could not make a sound. The energy fluctuation was extremely unfamiliar and Su Zimo had never seen it before. It did not seem like a spirit art, but it was extremely terrifying. Poof! There was a crisp sound. Right in front of countless gazes, the Wolf King's head that was inches away from Su Zimo suddenly exploded as though it was struck by a strange force. A blood mist spread and splattered onto Su Zimo's body. Su Zimo's body stiffened as he looked at the scene in disbelief. He could barely smell the incomparably smelly blood on his body. The spirit monkey was also stunned and froze on the spot. The powerful Jin Dan Realm Wolf King was able to suppress Su Zimo completely. However, it was killed instantly by this energy fluctuation without any resistance. How hard was the head of the Jin Dan Realm Wolf King? Even if Su Zimo wielded the cold moon saber and slashed with all his might, he would not be able to leave a single mark on its head. But now, such a hard head had exploded right in front of Su Zimo's eyes. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Su Zimo would not have been able to imagine it. The impact of this scene on him was way too great. It was only when the headless corpse of the Alpha fell heavily in front of Su Zimo that he snapped out of his stupor and heaved a long sigh of relief. After a short period of silence, the remaining thousands of wolves whimpered, drooped their tails, and fled into the distance without looking back. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared completely, leaving behind only wolf corpses and bloodstains. Chapter 201. Su Zimo turned back and looked at the dark cave behind him. He was bewildered. After being stunned for a moment, Su Zimo instinctively looked at the spirit monkey. After all, he had not been back for 2 years. The spirit monkey should know best what was in this cave. Unexpectedly, when he saw Su Zimo's gaze, the spirit monkey shook his head with a puzzled look. Down, the cold lake, into, the cave. At this moment, Su Zimo suddenly heard an unfamiliar voice. It was extremely weak and intermittent. This voice appeared extremely abruptly. It was as if it rang in Su Zimo's mind out of thin air. There was someone in the cave? Right under the cold lake? What kind of means was this? Su Zimo calmed himself down and took a look at the spirit monkey. The spirit monkey did not sense anything. There was nothing unusual. This meant that he was the only one who heard this voice. Su Zimo had no idea what the other party's identity was and what his motive was. He could not help but feel perturbed. But on second thought, if not for this person, he would have died just now under the wolf's kiss. In the worst-case scenario, he would just die again. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and did not tell the spirit monkey about this. The spirit monkey did not hear the voice of the mysterious person. There was only one possibility. The mysterious person did not want the spirit monkey to hear it. Moreover, it was unknown whether it would be a blessing or a curse under the cold lake. Su Zimo did not want the spirit monkey to take the risk. Monkey, wait here. I will go in and take a look. Su Zimo endured the excruciating pain and struggled to stand up. Ooh, ooh. The spirit monkey barked a few times. It supported Su Zimo with one hand and gestured with the other, indicating that it wanted to go in together. Wait for me outside. I will be back soon. Don't worry. Su Zimo added and walked slowly towards the cave. After entering the cave, a pungent yet familiar smell hit him. Su Zimo frowned. It was that damn monkey's feces again. There were not many changes in the cave. Su Zimo looked around and walked directly towards the cold lake. Layers of white mist floated on the surface of the water. It was bone-chilling. Su Zimo didn't hesitate. He took a deep breath and jumped in. Because he was wearing the mystic gold silk armor, Su Zimo sank very quickly. 2 years ago, he had just cultivated to the tendons changing section. Halfway through, the blood in his body had already shown signs of freezing. But now, as he continued to descend, Su Zimo's bloodline surged like a tidal wave, endlessly multiplying and surging, resisting the endless cold qi. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo stepped on solid ground and arrived at the bottom of the cold pond. There was a huge rock in front of him and he could finally make out the words on it. Extreme Fire Dao Palace. Su Zimo was shocked and choked on a mouthful of cold water. His abdomen wriggled, and in an instant, a chill erupted. Su Zimo's body trembled slightly. One must know that the words Dao Palace were not something that anyone could use. Jin Dan realm was perfected being, nascent soul realm was perfected lord, and above nascent soul was void reversion. Only void reversions could be called Dao beings. There was a high chance that the owner of this Dao Palace was a void reversion. Void reversion Dao beings were way too far away from Su Zimo. It was said that even at Misty Peak, the Patriarch's cultivation was only at nascent soul realm and had yet to reach void reversion. Calming himself down, Su Zimo took a few steps forward and closed in. There was a stone door beneath the huge rock. Hesitating for a moment, Su Zimo exerted strength with both arms and pushed the stone door. Crack! 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 The two stone doors opened from the middle and an ancient aura of decay gushed over. Gritting his teeth, Su Zimo stepped into the Dao Palace. As though it was blocked by an invisible resistance, the water of the cold pond was blocked outside and the stone door closed slowly. After entering the Dao Palace, Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly and froze on the spot. Unexpectedly, the space of the Dao Palace was surprisingly small and could be said to be unobstructed. In fact, it could not even compare to Su Zimo's cave abode at Misty Peak. There were not many decorations in the Dao Palace. Facing Su Zimo was a stone bed with a man lying on it. He wore scarlet robes with the emblem of a gigantic tripod embroidered on his sleeves. Su Zimo had never seen that emblem before. The man revealed his side profile and looked to be in his middle age. His face was black with a sinister green tinge. The scarlet-robed man laid there stiffly. Coupled with his greenish-black face, he looked like a corpse that had been laid out for many years. It was terrifying. "You don't have to be afraid. I don't have much life left and won't hurt you." Even though the scarlet-robed man's lips did not move, Su Zimo's mind suddenly rang out with that voice. "I'm using my spirit consciousness to communicate with you. Just now, the death of that wolf was also due to the power of my spirit consciousness." Spirit consciousness. It was said that perfected being Jin Dan was only able to open up his spirit consciousness and possess spirit consciousness after advancing to the nascent soul realm. Spirit consciousness was another type of power that was much stronger and more terrifying than one's vision. It was all-pervasive and could detect every single hidden corner. Against the power of spirit consciousness, the wolf that had formed a core was destroyed instantly and was as insignificant as an ant. Su Zimo asked, "How should I address you, Senior?" "Dao Lord." "Extreme Fire." The voice that came from the spirit consciousness was extremely weak. However, when it landed in Su Zimo's mind, it exploded like thunder. "Dao Lord." In the cultivation world, every single cultivation realm corresponded to a unique title. It was a symbol of identity, status and strength and could not be used carelessly. Su Zimo only knew that void reversions could be referred to as Dao beings. However, he had never heard of the corresponding cultivation realm of a Dao Lord. Logically speaking, a Dao Lord's cultivation realm must be above the void reversion realm. "Thank you for saving me, Senior Extreme Fire. Is there anything I can help you with?" After a long silence, Su Zimo asked. At that moment, Su Zimo did not have any confidence either. According to what the Hakuya Dojin said, he did not have much life left. What could a foundation establishment cultivator like Su Zimo be of help? 5,000 years ago, I barged into a ruin. In a moment of carelessness, I was injured by a life form in the ruin and was poisoned. Thereafter, I crushed a major transference talisman to escape death and was teleported here. The Hakuidojin's voice sounded intermittently and incoherent. However, Suzumo was completely dumbfounded. 5,000 years ago. Perfected being Jean Dan's lifespan was only 500 years. The middle-aged man in front of him was actually a person from 5,000 years ago, and he was still alive. What was even more frightening was that there was a life form in that unknown ruin that could injure the Hakuidojin. What sort of poison was it that even a Tao Lord could not withstand? As for the major transference talisman at the end, Suzumo had never heard of it before. After creating this place, the poison has already spread throughout my body and I can't leave. If my essence spirit leaves my body, it will be infected by the poison and I won't be able to live for more than an hour. Helpless, I can only rely on my spirit consciousness to resist the corrosion of the poison. 5,000 years. I can't hold on any longer. There was a hint of regret, indignance and relief in the Hakuidojin's voice. Suzumo looked at the Hakuidojin with shock in his eyes and a torrential wave in his heart. In that cramped Tao residence where he could not see the sun and almost lost his freedom, the Hakuidojin fought against the poison in his body alone for 5,000 years. How strong was his willpower? Chapter 202. If one were to say that this Hakuidojin was way too strong, the poison in his body would be even more terrifying. That was because even after 5,000 years, the Hakuidojin had still lost. If the poison in the Hakuidojin's body was terrifying enough, the thought of the ruin he had barged into was enough to send chills down one's spine. 2 years ago, I met you. The Hakuidojin said, however, you weren't a cultivator back then. To think that you would be a foundation establishment cultivator 2 years later. Someone has defied the heavens and changed your fate for you. Such methods are truly admirable. Suzumo was silent. If not for Dayu, he wouldn't have been able to reach where he was today. Even though this Hakuidojin was powerful, he was subdued by Dayu as well. My treasures are all in my storage bag. You don't have spirit consciousness and can't open them. Furthermore, your cultivation realm is too low and you won't be able to use them. You can keep my storage bag and open it when you're at void reversion in the future. Suzumo finally realized that the reason why the Hakuidojin called him down was to make arrangements for his death. I brought this black stone out from the ruin and can't put it in my storage bag. I don't know what use it has either. Take it with you. Beside the Hakuidojin's pillow was his storage bag and a black stone the size of a goose egg. The black stone was smooth and shone with a sparkling light. Suzumo stared at the black stone and felt as though his gaze was being pulled in by it. Instinctively, Suzumo picked up the black stone. The moment Suzumo's fingers touched the black stone, it suddenly disappeared. It was as though it had entered his body through his palm. All of a sudden, Suzumo felt a sharp pain in his head that was unbearable and almost fainted. Suzumo did not realize that right at this moment, his right eye had turned completely black. His eyes were as black as ink, without the slightest white. In the blink of an eye, Suzumo's right eye returned to normal as the stabbing pain gradually weakened. At the same time, a secret technique appeared in Suzumo's mind. To be precise, it was a sword formation technique, the candlelight sword formation. Suzumo only skimmed through the sword formation once, and he couldn't help but be secretly shocked. Although he had yet to cultivate or comprehend it, Suzumo speculated that the power of the candlelight sword formation was enough to crush the Ryoha sword formation. The candlelight sword formation was divided into 9 stages. A grade 1 candlelight sword formation required a total of 9 flying swords. If it was a grade 2 candlelight sword formation, it would require 18 flying swords, and so on. If he were to truly cultivate the candlelight sword formation to grade 9, he would require 81 flying swords to activate it successfully. Suzumo set aside the candlelight sword formation for the time being and lowered his head to check his entire body. When the black stone disappeared, Suzumo had an illusion that the stone had drilled into his body. However, after searching for a while, he found nothing. There's also a demon beast egg at the foot of the bed. I brought it out from the ruin as well. Take it away and nurture it well. Who knows, it might give birth to an extraordinary spirit beast. Su Zimo took 2 steps back and saw an oval-shaped egg that was about the size of a fist beneath the stone bed. If one didn't pay attention, it would be easy to overlook it and think that it was just an ordinary stone. But now, Su Zimo focused his gaze and was shocked to discover that there were extremely complicated and mysterious patterns on the surface of the demon beast egg. Su Zimo did not head forward to touch the demon beast egg. Everything in the ruin was a little strange and Su Zimo was worried that the egg would drill into his body if he touched it. You're a sword formation master, right? Suddenly, the Hakuya Dojin asked, his voice even weaker than before and almost inaudible. Yes. Su Zimo nodded. Previously, when he was fighting against the wolf pack outside, he had summoned the 8 Tribulations sword formation. Hakuya Dojin must have seen it. I don't know about sword formations, but I know that the most important thing for a sword formation master is their flying swords. There are many of them and they have to be the same in terms of weight and grade. It's best if they're identical. Su Zimo nodded. That's right. I'm a weapon refinement master as well. The flying swords I use are all refined by myself. Oh? Suddenly, there was a hint of joy in the Hakuya Dojin's tone. What grade spirit weapons can you refine? I can only refine inferior grade spirit weapons, Su Zimo replied honestly. The Hakuya Dojin said, actually, I'm from one of the 4 unorthodox groups. 100 Refinement Sect. In Tianhuang mainland, 100 Refinement Sect reigns supreme in the art of weapon refinement. It's a pity that you're not a disciple of my sect and I can't impart to you many of our secret weapon refinement techniques. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He had once unintentionally heard Demonist Ji mention that there were 4 unorthodox groups among the top factions of Tianhuang mainland. They were on par with the 7 fiend sections. However, the Hakuya Dojin continued, I can refine a weapon in front of you. Watch the entire process carefully. How much you can comprehend will depend on your capabilities. 100 Refinement Sect reigns supreme in the art of weapon refinement. Those words were enough to prove how strong 100 Refinement Sect was in terms of weapon refinement. Furthermore, the person before him was a Tao Lord of 100 Refinement Sect. It was a rare opportunity. Suddenly, a figure flew out from Hakuya Dojin's glabella. It was also wearing scarlet robes and was almost a miniature Hakuya Dojin. Its appearance and features were identical. This is my essence spirit. It's about to dissipate. Hakuya Dojin said and waved his hand gently. A gigantic tripod and many materials flew out from the storage bag at the bedside. Swoosh! Raging flames rose from beneath the tripod. Warming the tripod, selecting materials, smelting, molding, the steps were roughly the same. However, the details and techniques displayed during weapon refinement were far from the same. In Su Zimo's eyes, every single step of Hakuya Dojin's weapon refinement was smooth like flowing water. It was as though he was not refining a spirit weapon, but creating an unparalleled treasure. Su Zimo was already an elementary weapon refinement master. However, at that moment, he realized that his weapon refinement standards were like trash compared to true experts. After molding, it was tempering. It was also Su Zimo's weakest link. Su Zimo widened his eyes and looked at Hakuya Dojin's technique. Hakuya Dojin controlled his 10 fingers with incomparable agility and tapped on the sword bit by bit. The moment his fingertips landed, it was as though an exquisite hammer was condensed on his fingertips. Cling! Clang! 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 His 10 fingers tapped on the sword rhythmically and there was a crisp sound. The intervals between the sounds were exactly the same. This is one of the secret skills of 100 Refinement Sect. 1000 Tempered Finger. Hakuya Dojin's voice sounded. I can't tell you the secret behind it. Watch more, think more and practice more. You'll definitely gain something. Before long, the tempering was over and spirit gathering began. Almost instantly, the first spirit pattern appeared on the sword. Su Zimo was dumbfounded. Wasn't the speed of spirit gathering way too fast? This is another secret skill of 100 Refinement sect, the 100 Refinement spirit gathering technique. This secret skill requires an incantation and mental cultivation technique. You won't be able to comprehend anything just by observing. Before he finished his sentence, a second spirit pattern appeared. Immediately after, a third. A fourth. Chapter 203. In just a few breaths, 4 spirit patterns had already been condensed on the flying sword. 4 spirit patterns were at supreme grade. Another step further and it would be perfect. Spirit gathering was the most difficult step in weapon refinement. However, it was executed so easily by Hakuya. One could be called an advanced weapon refinement master if they could refine superior grade spirit weapons. Above advanced weapon refinement masters were the titles of weapon refinement grandmasters and weapon refinement grandmasters. What was the title of this Hakuya before him? In order to let Su Zimo see his weapon refinement technique clearly, Hakuya removed the weapon tripod when he was tempering and spirit gathering. After Hakuya condensed 4 spirit patterns, he did not stop at all and wanted to condense a 5th. Right then, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and a sense of danger flashed. The sense of danger came from the scarlet sword. It was very familiar, it was the precursor to a failure of spirit gathering. Don't! Seeing that Hakuya had no intention of stopping, Su Zimo shouted instinctively. Hakuya paused and glanced at Su Zimo, murmuring softly, "That's right. Even if you're given a perfect spirit weapon, you won't be able to control it given your cultivation realm." Given Su Zimo's spirit energy, even if he could control a perfect spirit weapon, he would not be able to last long. The consumption of spirit energy for all 5 spirit patterns to be activated was way too great. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and lamented internally, although 100 Refinement sect spirit gathering technique is indeed powerful, the success rate isn't 100%. Although my spirit gathering technique is slower, it's safer. In other words, if Su Zimo was able to reach the limits of material selection, smelting, molding and tempering, he would be able to refine a perfect spirit weapon with a 100% chance of success. If news of this were to spread in the cultivation world, Su Zimo would become the most sought-after weapon refinement master. There was no one else. This supreme grade flying sword is for you. Take it. Whoosh! A sword light flashed and stabbed into the ground in front of Su Zimo. Sigh, after 5,000 years, it's still futile. Hakuya primordial spirit was dyed with a tinge of green, and it was getting darker and darker. Su Zimo raised his eyebrows slightly and tried to suppress the shock in his heart. Hakuya primordial spirit flew out from between his eyebrows. In this short period of contact with his physical body, it was infected with this poison. From this, one could see how strong the poison was. Inside the body of the ash wolf is an inner core. For you, it would be a great tonic. Don't forget to take it out. Su Zimo's eyes lit up. In immortal cultivation, when a cultivator stepped into the Tao of alchemy, they would condense a dazzling Jin Dan in their Dantian. According to the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, after a demon formed a core, an inner core would be formed in their body. The inner core was similar to the Jin Dan in that it was the essence of a cultivator's cultivation. The only difference was that the Jin Dan was formed by the qualitative change of spirit energy, whereas the inner core was formed by the essence chi of the 5 organs. According to the organs refinement section, the essence chi of the 5 organs was the 5 types of essence chi produced after organs refinement. When it was released in the body, it would nourish the skin, flesh, tendons, bones and marrow, causing the body to undergo a complete transformation. Be it in terms of strength or speed, there would be an obvious increase. When the body reached its limits under the nourishment of the essence chi of the 5 organs, it would enter the next realm, orifice clearing. Orifice clearing did not bring about a huge increase in strength or speed. However, it brought about an obvious change in the overall strength of a shoyao. The so-called orifice clearing was to make use of the essence chi of the 5 organs to clear the 7 orifices of the mouth, eyes, ears, and nose. Once the 7 orifices were cleared, the 5 senses of a Xiaoyao would be enhanced tremendously. Their vision, hearing, and sense of smell would become extremely sharp. This was just a change on the surface. There would be a qualitative change within a Xiaoyao as well. The 5 organs, skin, flesh, tendons, marrow, and 5 senses would form a close connection with each other, forming a mini-cycle within the body. Once orifice clearing reached greater mastery, the body would be both tough and soft, becoming one with a great increase in coordination. The inner core would be formed when the 5 chi converged into one. The inner core was the condensation of the 5 organs and was the essence of the Ash Wolf King's cultivation. For Su Zimo, it was way too important. After consuming the inner core, there was a high chance that Su Zimo would take a crucial step forward in the organs refinement section. The path of cultivation is long and arduous. A single misstep can lead to death. How sad, how lamentable. Hakuidogen's essence spirit floated down slowly and laid on the ground. His brows were filled with endless vicissitudes as he murmured and closed his eyes gradually. At this moment, Su Zimo felt sorrowful as though he was experiencing the same thing. This Hakuidogen before him was countless times stronger than him. However, he still ended up in this state. How far could he go in the future? Furthermore, the path he had to take was even more arduous and bumpy. Thank you for saving my life, imparting the Tao and bestowing treasures, Senior. Su Zimo bowed deeply in the direction of Hakuidogen's corpse. Hakuidogen's essence spirit had already turned greenish-black and his vitality was faintly discernible. It was clear that he could no longer live. Heis! Su Zimo sighed gently and came to the side of the stone bed, prepared to put away the storage bag left behind by Hakuidogen. Because Hakuidogen had left a spirit consciousness restriction on the storage bag, Su Zimo could not open it given his current cultivation. Even so, it was worth looking forward to. As a Tao Lord of the 100 Refinement Gate, one of the 4 unorthodox groups, how many treasures would he have in his storage bag? Keeping the storage bag, Su Zimo placed the supreme-grade flying sword on the ground into his storage bag. Eh! Su Zimo exclaimed softly. The moment he closed the storage bag, he could vaguely sense that there was something amiss with the Buddha bead the size of a longan in the storage bag. Su Zimo took out the Buddha bead. The moment he picked up the Buddha bead, Su Zimo frowned and looked even more puzzled. The Buddha bead was warm to the touch. Strange, ever since he picked up the Buddha bead from the stone coffin, it had not undergone any changes. This was the first time. Su Zimo surveyed his surroundings in deep thought. If he was not wrong, there might be something in this cave abode that could cause the Buddha bead to sense something. Su Zimo held the Buddha bead in his palm and walked around the cave abode. After taking a few steps, Su Zimo suddenly stopped and bent down, looking at Hakuidogen's essence spirit that was lying on the ground not far away. He frowned in silence. A moment later, Su Zimo tried to straighten his arm and bring the Buddha bead near Hakuidogen's essence spirit. Shoo! A streak of light. Right in front of Su Zimo, Hakuidogen's essence spirit was suddenly sucked away by the Buddha bead and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Su Zimo's expression changed and he hurriedly threw the Buddha bead on the ground. Hakuidogen's essence spirit was also poisoned. Now that it was sucked into the Buddha bead would not be spared either. After observing for a long time, Su Zimo was shocked to discover that there were no changes to the Buddha bead. Su Zimo did not dare to be careless. He grabbed a stone from the ground and touched the Buddha bead with it. There were no changes to the stone either. This meant that the Buddha bead was not tainted with the terrifying poison. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief. He could not be blamed for being so cautious. The poison was truly way too powerful. Even a powerful cultivator like Hakuidogen ended up in such a state after 5,000 years. Su Zimo had no choice but to be careful. Su Zimo picked up the Buddha bead and studied it for a while before putting it back into his storage bag. Chapter 204. There was nothing left in the cave abode that could be taken away. Su Zimo's gaze finally landed on the demon beast egg. Actually, Su Zimo did not have much hope for the demon beast egg. Since this demonic beast egg was brought out from a relic from 5,000 years ago, then why would it be so valuable? This meant that the demon beast egg was far more than 5,000 years old. Even a demon beast might not be able to live for that long, let alone a demon beast egg. However, on second thought, Su Zimo realized that the items in the ruin were not ordinary. The black stone that might have fused with his body, the candlelight sword formation recorded within, and the poison that killed even a Tao Lord. At that thought, Su Zimo arrived before the demon beast egg and scrutinized it. All of a sudden, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Since the demon beast egg was brought out by Hakuhodojin from the ruin and came into contact with Hakuhodojin's poisoned body, why was it not tainted with any poison? Even Hakuhodojin's essence spirit was not spared, but the demon beast egg was fine. Immune to poison? After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo picked up the demon beast egg and tried to place it in his storage bag. He could not put it in. Su Zimo's eyes lit up in joy. One had to know that inanimate objects such as weapons, pills, and the like could all be placed in a storage bag. However, there was no way to store living beings in storage bags. But now, the fact that the demon beast egg could not be placed in his storage bag proved that there were signs of life within the demon beast egg. It was still alive. Su Zimo's mind gradually became active. It might not be a bad thing if he could nurture a spirit beast. Furthermore, this spirit beast came from an unknown ruin and might be immune to poison. Demon beast eggs were extremely rare and only some of the top factions of Tianhuang mainland would have them. They were all prepared for the top paragons of their sections. The more powerful the bloodline, the more precious the demonic beast egg would be, and the harder it would be to obtain it. This was because the eggs of such demonic beasts would definitely be guarded day and night by extremely powerful pure-blooded ferocious beasts. Moreover, they would be located in the deepest part of the forest and mountain range. In order to obtain such a monster egg, the sect's top experts would have to step forward and fight against a pure-blooded descendant or a pure-blooded ferocious beast. Moreover, they might not necessarily succeed and might even fall into a dangerous situation. Spirit beasts bred from demonic beast eggs were extremely loyal and would never betray their masters. Misty Peak was one of the 5 great sects of the Great Zhou dynasty. Although they didn't have demon beast eggs, they had instructions on how to breed them. First, it was dripping blood. It wasn't something like a drop of blood, and it wasn't that miraculous. The principle was very simple. The purpose of dripping his own blood was to erase the mother's aura from the demonic beast egg and replace it with his own blood. In this way, during the breeding process and at the moment of birth, the most familiar scent would be the scent of the dripping blood human. Naturally, the two parties would be the closest. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo took out the supreme-grade flying sword refined by Hakuhodojin and injected spirit chi into it. For spirit patterns shone at the same time, emitting a chilling aura that was sharp and menacing. Given Su Zimo's current physique, if he didn't activate the spirit patterns, it wouldn't be able to pierce his skin. The tip of the sword sliced across his left palm and a bloody wound appeared. Su Zimo hurriedly placed his left hand on the demonic beast egg and started wiping it. The moment he wiped the demonic beast egg, Su Zimo suddenly felt his palm tighten, as though something had bitten him. Su Zimo's expression changed. Immediately after, a tremendous suction force burst forth from the demonic beast egg. Su Zimo's bloodline flowed uncontrollably from the wound on his left palm and surged into the demonic beast egg. This feeling was as if a demonic beast egg was hungry and thirsty, swallowing his blood in large mouthfuls. Frowning, Su Zimo shook his hand forcefully a few times, wanting to shake off the demonic beast egg. However, the demonic beast egg seemed to be stuck to his palm and he could not shake it off no matter what. All of a sudden, the mysterious and complicated patterns on the demonic beast egg suddenly shone with a blinding light. Against the shade of blood, it was extremely sinister. The speed at which the demonic beast egg devoured the bloodline increased exponentially. It was even faster than he had imagined. Psst! Su Zimo gasped and felt dizzy. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before he was sucked dry by the demonic beast egg. Putting away his flying sword, Su Zimo grabbed the demonic beast egg with his right hand and tried to tear it apart. However, no matter how he tore, the demonic beast egg stuck firmly to his palm and did not budge at all. Furthermore, it was still devouring his bloodline without any signs of stopping. Damn it! Indeed, I can't touch anything in this ruin. Su Zimo's face was pale as he cursed in his heart. There were two choices in front of him. He could either chop off his left hand or be sucked dry. Suddenly, a thought flashed in Su Zimo's mind. He turned and dashed out of the cave abode. Taking advantage of the fact that the bloodline in his body had not been sucked dry and there was still energy left, Su Zimo swam desperately towards the cold lake. In the blink of an eye, he leaped onto the cold lake. Su Zimo staggered. His blood and chi were weak and he nearly fell. Oh! When the spirit monkey saw Su Zimo dashing out in a hurry, it was stunned. It had only been a while since they last met. Su Zimo's flesh and blood had withered and he had lost a lot of weight. In his left palm, there was an egg that was shining with blood. The spirit monkey was puzzled. It was about to step forward when Su Zimo suddenly shouted, "Don't come over." The spirit monkey hurriedly stopped in its tracks. It widened its eyes and looked at Su Zimo. Su Zimo came to the previous battlefield. Looking at the scattered corpses of the wolves, he took a deep breath and chanted a few cryptic and eerie sutras. A bloody glow flashed in his eyes. Blood-devouring technique. This was a secret technique in the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly. The flesh and blood of the wolves in front of him dissipated gradually, turning into a pool of blood that flowed rapidly into his mouth. On one side, the demonic beast egg was constantly devouring Su Zimo's blood. On the other side, Su Zimo was constantly devouring the blood of the wolves' corpses. Finally, he managed to stay alive. As time passed, the number of wolves' corpses decreased. Pure white wolf skeletons appeared on the ground one after another. After an unknown period of time, just as Su Zimo could not hold on any longer, the demonic beast egg fell from his palm with a thud. It rolled a few rounds on the ground and remained motionless. The bloody glow on the demonic beast egg gradually dissipated and returned to its original state. At first glance, it looked like a rock the size of a fist. Su Zimo fell and sat on the ground. He looked at the demonic beast egg with lingering fear and heaved a long sigh. If he had not experienced it personally, Su Zimo could not imagine how a small demonic beast egg could devour so much blood in his body. Oh. The spirit monkey came up and asked a few questions. Su Zimo forced out a smile and said, "I'm fine. I was almost cheated by an egg." Chapter 205. Looking at the demon beast egg not far away, Su Zimo felt as though he had just survived a calamity. If not for the fact that he had cultivated two top-notch marrow-cleansing blood-swapping techniques and the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, he would have been sucked to death by this demon beast egg instantly. Egg? The spirit monkey approached the demon beast egg. Blinking its eyes, it grabbed it and sized it up curiously. Su Zimo surveyed his surroundings. His eyes lit up when his gaze landed on a spot. Under the corpse of the Wolf King, there was a round core the size of a fist. It was light red in color. A demon beast's inner core. It was because the Ash Wolf King had such a round object that he could unleash such terrifying power with a casual strike. It even shattered Su Zimo's 6 inferior-grade flying swords. The colors of the inner core were different and they were related to the type of demon beast. Some demon beasts that lived in the water, such as the water crocodile and ancient spirit fish, would condense inner cores that were of the water attribute and were mostly blue in color. Some demon beasts that were of the vegetation type, such as the three-leaved sword grass and purple blood vine, would condense inner cores that were of the wood attribute and were mostly green in color. Inner cores were also divided into grades. No matter what color it was, the purer the color, the higher the grade. For example, this light red wolf's inner core could only be considered as a middle-grade inner core. A dark red inner core was considered as a high-grade inner core. A dark red inner core was considered as a supreme-grade inner core. If one could condense an inner core that was as red as blood, it would be a perfect inner core. Even ancient ferocious beasts with pure bloodlines might not be able to condense a perfect inner core, let alone ordinary spirit beasts and ancient remnant beasts. The grade did not refer to the impurities in the inner core. Instead, it referred to the purity of the inner core and the amount of energy it contained. At the same early stage inner core realm, even 10 inferior grade inner core spirit demons might not be a match for a middle grade inner core spirit demon. The Wolf King was just an ordinary spirit beast. It was already considered good that it could condense a middle grade inner core. Su Zimo picked up the Wolf King's inner core and beckoned to the spirit monkey before walking towards the cave. The sky was already dark and night was about to fall. Although the strength of the man and monkey was no longer the same as before, it was still very dangerous to stay outside the Tsanglang mountain range. Back in the cave, Su Zimo split the inner core into two and handed half to the spirit monkey. He smiled and said, "Monkey, this is the inner core of the Wolf King. It's a great tonic. Take it and cultivate." The spirit monkey did not decline. It received half of the alpha wolf's inner core and swallowed it without even chewing. After a slight pause, the spirit monkey's eyes widened and its expression changed drastically. The spirit monkey sat up in a flurry and started cultivating. It continuously refined the energy in the inner core and its aura gradually became heavier. Su Zimo placed the other half of the Wolf King's core into his mouth and chewed slowly. The Wolf King's inner core was not hard, and was a little soft. After chewing it and swallowing it into his stomach, he could clearly feel a huge surge of energy bursting forth. This power carried a trace of heat as it flowed through his limbs and bones, surging towards his internal organs. In this cave, Su Zimo had almost exploded from the energy of the scarlet flame fruit. Now, Su Zimo did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly circulated the organ's refinement sutra and breathed in and out to refine the energy of the inner core that was rampaging in his body. Time passed bit by bit. A man and a monkey sat in the cave with their eyes closed. Fog rose from their bodies and lingered around them. To be fair, if not for this alpha wolf's inner core, it would be impossible for Su Zimo to enter the organ's refinement section without a few years of exploration and research. But now, with the help of the alpha wolf's inner core, Su Zimo was gradually reaching the threshold of the organ's refinement section. The inner core was, in fact, the fusion of the blood and the 5 internal organs. Blood and qi combined to form a core. Refining the inner core was equivalent to refining the 5 internal organs' qi. It would drive the circulation of the organ's refinement section, and Su Zimo gradually found the feeling of refining his organs. Refining the 5 internal organs would produce the essence of the 5 internal organs. The 5 internal organs corresponded to the skin, flesh, tendons, bones and marrow. Organs refinement not only increased the strength of the 5 internal organs, it was also a type of baptism and refinement of the entire body. It was a summary of the first few sections of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. A night had passed and Su Zimo showed no signs of stopping his cultivation. Unknowingly, the injuries from the battle with the alpha wolf had already healed silently. Under the nourishment and refinement of the 5 internal organs' qi, the hidden injuries in his body were also healed. When the sun rose, the spirit monkey's cultivation ended. The spirit monkey took a look at Su Zimo, who was still cultivating, and did not disturb him. Instead, it tiptoed to a corner. It looked around furtively and did not discover anyone else. Only then did the spirit monkey secretly take out the demonic beast egg and place it under its buttocks. The spirit monkey squatted on the demonic beast egg in a weird posture, as if it was relieving itself. However, there was no feces coming out. Furthermore, the spirit monkey did not sit properly. On the other side, Su Zimo's cultivation was still ongoing. The entire cave was filled with a crimson-red fog. One could not see clearly and the demonic aura was overwhelming. It was heart-palpitating. When the spirit beasts in the vicinity sensed this aura, they had already stayed far away. A figure was faintly discernible in the thick demonic aura. As it breathed, there was a flow of air from its mouth and nose. It was as if an ancient demon was breathing in and out. Another day and night passed. All of a sudden, 2 beams of demonic light flashed in the thick crimson fog. It was a pair of eyes. Su Zimo had ended his cultivation. Looking at the thick demonic aura around him, he suddenly opened his mouth and inhaled. The immense demonic aura gushed into Su Zimo's mouth continuously at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared completely. Su Zimo stood up, twisted his neck and stretched his limbs. A series of crackling sounds could be heard from his body, as if beans were being fried. His organs were trembling slightly, his blood was like a tidal wave and his bones and tendons were ringing. It had to be said that the alpha wolf's inner core was of great help to Su Zimo. In just a single day and 2 nights of cultivation, Su Zimo's physical strength had increased by an entire level under the nourishment of the qi of his 5 organs. However, at the same time, the hidden dangers of demonic cultivation appeared once more when he cultivated the organ's refinement section. Demonic qi. Demonic qi was produced in Su Zimo's body. When he cultivated the marrow cleansing section, Su Zimo's new bloodline was all demonic due to the marrow cleansing section. However, the demonic bloodline could change Su Zimo's physique and appearance. Thankfully, Su Zimo obtained the Void Thunder Manual in Thunderclap Valley by chance. Although it was incomplete, there was a section of the Thunderclap Marrow Cleansing Sutra in it that resolved the hidden dangers of demonic cultivation temporarily. But now, the demonic qi produced in Su Zimo's body was from refining his organs. The Thunderclap Marrow Cleansing Sutra could only cleanse the marrow but not the organs. Of course, the situation this time round was slightly different from the previous times. The bloodline could allow Su Zimo to transform into a demon completely and change his appearance. However, the demonic qi could not change Su Zimo's physique and appearance. In other words, Su Zimo could continue cultivating the organ's refinement section and use the demonic qi to nourish his skin, flesh, tendons, marrow and strengthen his body. However, the hidden danger was that Su Zimo could not use the power of the demonic qi or others would definitely sense it. After all, demonic qi was way too different from the aura of humans. Any cultivator would be able to tell right away. Chapter 206. The power of organs refinement lay in the ability to release the power of blood qi and not just the power of bloodline. The qi in the power of blood qi referred to demonic qi. But now, as a human, Su Zimo would be suppressed instantly if he were to release the power of blood qi and be filled with demonic qi. Of course, the power of bloodline alone was enough to deal with most foundation establishment cultivators. Once Su Zimo closed in, even perfected foundation establishment cultivators with multiple spirit meridians unlocked would be doomed. He had left the sect for quite some time this time round. Thankfully, his cultivation did not fall behind and he had gained a lot along the way. Su Zimo intended to return to the sect and digest everything he had learned. On the one hand, he had to raise his cultivation realm as soon as possible to prepare for the sect competition 3 years later. On the other hand, he had to master the art of tempering as soon as possible so that he could refine middle-grade or even superior-grade flying swords. That way, he could start cultivating the candlelight sword formation. Su Zimo was looking forward to the candlelight sword formation. A grade 2 candlelight sword formation required a total of 18 flying swords to be refined. Not to mention the power of the sword formation itself, just the 18 flying swords alone would be enough to make a foundation establishment cultivator suffer. Of course, there was also the matter of nurturing that demon beast egg. Since it came from a ruin, there was a high chance that it was immune to all poisons and even absorbed so much of his bloodline. Suzimo was curious as to what sort of spirit beast would be nurtured from that demon beast egg. If it was an ancient remnant beast, he would have struck gold. Remnant beasts were the descendants of pure-blooded ferocious beasts and ordinary demon beasts. Although they possessed the bloodline of ferocious beasts, they were extremely strong even if their bloodline was not pure. For example, Song Lang and Linghu could only be considered as the most ordinary demon beasts and could not be compared to ferocious beasts. As for Little Crane, Suzimo could vaguely sense that Little Crane's bloodline was not simple and there was a high chance that it was an ancient remnant beast. Take the spirit monkey for example. Initially, it was a spirit beast with an ordinary bloodline, but Daiyu seemed to have imparted a cultivation technique to it. Right now, the spirit monkey was no longer ordinary as well. Suzimo wondered if he should impart the Void Thunder manual to the Linghu when he returned. Although the Linghu seemed smart, it was actually extremely stupid. If it was still so weak, it would have a hard time surviving in the future. If this demon beast egg is able to nurture a pure-blooded ferocious beast, with that thought, Suzimo's heartbeat quickened. Pure-blooded ferocious beasts, Suzimo pure-blooded chi, pure-blooded ferocious beasts, chi 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 chi, chi condensation. Once, Zimo, chi, Zimo, to kill. And this was only a cub. Not only that, but the memories of the pure-blooded ferocious beasts also contained the memories and inheritances of their species. They were ancient, mysterious, and powerful. They were all cultivation methods and secret techniques that were most suitable for them to cultivate. Of course, the growth of pure-blooded ferocious beasts was extremely slow. Even if they did not cultivate, most of the pure-blooded ferocious beasts had lifespans of more than 10,000 years. If a cultivator were to nurture a pure-blooded ferocious beast, the cultivator would either exhaust his lifespan or die before the ferocious beast matured. At that thought, Suzimo instinctively searched for the demon beast egg. He looked around but could not find it. Strange. Suzimo furrowed his brows slightly. The cave was not big. He could see everything as far as his eyes could see. However, there were no traces of the demon beast egg. I clearly saw the damned monkey bring it in. Suzimo mumbled. His gaze landed on the spirit monkey and he exclaimed softly. The spirit monkey's posture was a little strange. It seemed like it was relieving itself. However, it had been squatting for too long. Furthermore, the spirit monkey hovered and did not sit down. There seemed to be something below its buttocks. Suzimo vaguely guessed something and could not help but roll his eyes. Damned monkey, aren't you tired? Upon hearing Suzimo's question, the spirit monkey shook its head. It looked at the entrance of the cave and pretended as if nothing had happened. Suzimo could not help but laugh. Stop pretending. Get up quickly. Don't tell me you're thinking of using your monkey buttocks to hatch the demon beast egg. Seeing that Suzimo had seen through it, the spirit monkey's face turned red. It stood up reluctantly. At the sight of this, Suzimo clicked his tongue in wonder. The spirit monkey was extremely thick-skinned and unruly. It was Suzimo's first time seeing it so bashful. Ow, ow. After pausing for a while, the spirit monkey revealed its true colors. It bared its teeth and gestured while shouting at Suzimo. Although they had not met for 2 years, Suzimo still understood the spirit monkey's meaning immediately. The spirit monkey said that Suzimo did not know anything and should not interfere blindly. Suzimo scolded jokingly, I don't know. Do you? You did not give birth to this plaything. You have no blood relations with it at all. What's the point of hatching it? The spirit monkey was stunned by Suzimo's scolding. Ooh, ooh. Immediately after, the spirit monkey looked at Suzimo in disdain. It squinted at him and barked a few times. The spirit monkey was saying, what do you know? We are both from the demon clan. Our auras are similar and we can hatch it too. Suzimo covered his nose and said in disdain, your auras are not similar. Your entire body reeks of feces. Even if it hatches, I'm afraid it will be smelled to death by you. Su Zimo had just said it casually. However, the spirit monkey became nervous. It hurriedly ran into the cold pool and washed its body thoroughly. Again and again, Su Zimo was dumbfounded. Before this, they had fought many times because of this. Even if it was beaten black and blue by Su Zimo, this monkey refused to compromise. It continued to wipe its feces daily. While it was disgusting to Su Zimo, it also enjoyed it. Now, this monkey actually went to take a bath because of a demonic beast egg? This was really... Everything had its vanquisher. After a long time, the spirit monkey jumped out of the cold pool. It ran to Su Zimo and barked softly. "It's gone." Su Zimo said, "A layer of your skin has almost been washed off. What else can there be?" "Ooh ooh." The spirit monkey gestured and asked where the demonic beast egg was. Chapter 207. This day, a man and a monkey rushed over from outside Ethereal Peak, looking travel-worn. They passed through the fog formation and landed on the main peak of Ethereal Peak, attracting some attention. Junior brother Su is back. That monkey beside him is his spirit beast as well. Junior brother Su seems to have a special liking for spirit beasts. Including that monkey, he already has 2 spirit beasts. There are too many spirit beasts. If the power of the blood oath is distributed, it will definitely weaken. I think something will happen to Su Zimo sooner or later. When the sect disciples saw the man and monkey, they had different gazes and discussed fervently. When Su Zimo had just advanced to early-stage foundation establishment and entered the inner sect, there were inner sect disciples who came to provoke him. In the end, they were swept away by his thunderous methods. Thereafter, no one dared to disturb him until Su Zimo left the sect and headed to the Sky Treasure Auction House. Roar! Monkey felt extremely frustrated after being pointed at by so many strangers. It bared its fangs and roared at the cultivators not far away with a menacing expression. Demonic chi burst forth with a chilling killing intent. Monkey's fur stood on end and it looked like it had expanded in size with a frightening aura. If not for the fact that Su Zimo was beside it, Monkey might have already charged forward and killed everyone given its unruly nature. Many cultivators were shocked. Monkey's body was stained with endless blood. If one wanted to survive in a place like Tsanglang Mountain Range, they would have to fight almost every day and experience a baptism of blood and death. Monkey's aura was much more violent and bloodthirsty than Linghu and Little Crane. Frowning slightly, Su Zimo raised his palm and patted Monkey's shoulder gently, indicating that there was no need for it to be nervous. Along the way, Su Zimo had repeatedly reminded Monkey to rein in its wild nature at Misty Peak and not to reveal its ferocious side and fight to the death. Monkey harumphed and 2 streams of air came out of its nostrils as its fur gradually calmed down. Before long, the man and monkey disappeared from everyone's sight. Humph, that beast is really arrogant. It's only because junior brother Su is around. If not, I would have killed that beast personally. How dare it act so arrogantly in front of us? Many cultivators pretended to scold the man and monkey when they saw them disappear. The door of the cave abode was wide open and Linghu and Little Crane were sprawled inside, taking a nap. Little Crane was the first to sense it and opened its eyes. When Little Crane saw that it was Su Zimo, it cried out in joy. Linghu opened his eyes and lazily looked over. When he saw that it was Su Zimo, he immediately jumped up from the ground. Monkey did not have much of a reaction when he saw the tiger and crane. He merely curled his lips and a look of disdain flashed in his eyes. Following behind Su Zimo, Monkey swaggered in. This is Monkey. He was once my friend in Tsanglang Mountain Range. Su Zimo then pointed at Linghu and Little Crane, saying, "This is Linghu and that is Little Crane. The 3 of you should stay together from now on. Don't fight. Chi." When he heard that, Monkey sneered and extended his finger, waving it in front of Linghu and Little Crane provocatively. Even though he did not say anything, Monkey's meaning was clear: the 2 of you can't fight and are no match for me. Ling Hu had just entered Foundation Establishment realm and was at the stage of being arrogant. Furthermore, to Ling Hu, he had been with Su Zimo the longest. If he were to be ridden on by a monkey that came later, how would he live his life in the future? There was no way Ling Hu could hold himself back when he saw Monkey's gesture. Roar! Ling Hu lowered his body and pretended to pounce on his prey. His eyes shone with a ferocious glint as though he could charge out at any moment. Caw, caw! On the other side, Little Crane could not stand it any longer and called out to Monkey, ready to pounce. After all, Little Crane had a better relationship with Ling Hu. Suddenly, Su Zimo felt a headache coming on when he heard the continuous roars in the cave. Boom! Before long, Monkey and Ling Hu collided head-on. It was a pure burst of strength without any fancy moves. After a brief pause, Ling Hu was sent flying by Monkey. Slamming into the stone wall behind him, the cave abode shook and dust fell. Ling Hu felt as though his tendons and bones were about to break. Monkey had cultivated the cultivation technique imparted to him by Dai Yu and would mutate even if his bloodline was ordinary. As for Ling Hu, he was truly just an ordinary walking beast. Even if they were of the same cultivation realm, Ling Hu would be taught a terrible lesson by Monkey, let alone the difference in their cultivation realms. The difference in bloodline was way too great. With a flip, Monkey rode on Ling Hu's body and raised his massive fists, smashing down on Ling Hu's head. Clang! 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 After a few consecutive hits, the spirit tiger was in a daze. It was completely stunned. Swoosh! Little Crane pounced forward from the side and extended a pair of sharp claws that shone with a cold glint, grabbing towards Monkey's back. Without even turning back, Monkey swung his rod casually. The wind howled. Little Crane was alarmed and did not dare to take the blow head-on, dodging to another spot to deal with the monkey. Against Little Crane that could soar into the air at any moment, Monkey was helpless as well. It could only ride on Ling Hu's body and roar at Little Crane. Ow! Ow! Caw, caw! Little Crane's voice was loud and excited as it replied. Ling Hu, who was sprawled beneath Monkey, would roar from time to time as well. The cries of the three demon beasts sounded one after another and Su Zimo could no longer make out what they were saying. However, he could roughly guess that Monkey wanted to be the king and leader of the three of them. However, Ling Hu and Little Crane refused to give in and were indignant. Monkey took the demon beast egg from Su Zimo's hands and pointed at it, howling for a long time. Before long, the three spirit beasts came to a consensus. They would take turns to incubate the demon beast egg, and whoever the spirit beast chose to follow would be their king. There were 24 hours in a day. Initially, the three spirit beasts could split it equally for 8 hours. Unexpectedly, Ling Hu became the most pitiful one once more. Ling Hu's 8 hours were forcefully taken up by Monkey and Little Crane, leaving him with only 4 hours left. In another cave abode on Misty Peak. It was dark and quiet. Feng Haoyu assumed a lotus position with many spirit stones around him. His cultivation realm was already a perfected foundation establishment, and he had even unlocked a meridian. All of a sudden, a sinister wind blew. Feng Haoyu opened his eyes and was in no hurry to survey his surroundings. Instead, he was deep in thought, as though he was waiting for something. Su Zimo is back. Before long, a hoarse voice sounded. It was erratic, but it came from within Feng Haoyu's cave abode. The disheveled old man has already obtained a tempering technique. If Su Zimo is left alone to comprehend it, there won't be much time left for Misty Peak. It's easy to kill him, Feng Haoyu frowned. However, how are we going to deal with the other 3 legacy disciples of Misty Peak at the same time? If we cripple those 3 legacy disciples and Su Zimo, there's almost no one in Misty Peak who has the ability to leave their names on the ranking lists of the sect competition. Don't worry, the opportunity is here, the hoarse voice sounded. After this battle, you and I can return to the sect with success. Chapter 208. Black Crow Mountain. Located in the northwest corner of the Great Zhou dynasty, it was vast and filled with beasts. There were many crows in the forests and most of them were sentient. In fact, there were even black crow demons that had cultivated supreme dermic powers that ruled over a region with terrifying strength. It was said that there was once a perfected being Jean Dan who entered the depths of Black Crow Mountain but never returned. A few years ago, a middle-aged man came to Black Raven Mountain. His dark green eyes emitted a strange light. He walked into the depths of Black Raven Mountain without looking back. From that day onwards, the crows of Black Crow Mountain turned unusually ferocious with bloodshot eyes. The skies of Black Crow Mountain were shrouded in a blood mist all year round. In the depths of the dense forest, a grand hall known as Blood Crow Palace rose from the ground. In a few short years, all the sects in the vicinity of Black Crow Mountain had submitted to Blood Crow Palace. This day, a pale-faced young man with dark green eyes arrived outside Blood Crow Palace. He was at Perfected Foundation establishment and knelt on one knee, cupping his fists. "Master, a year ago, my blood slave was killed outside Linfeng City. We've already found out who the murderer is. His name is Su Zimo and he's an inner sect disciple of Misty Peak." The blood mist spread through the forest and Blood Crow Palace was like an ancient fiend demon sitting on the spot. It was faintly discernible and sinister, emitting a cold aura. After the young cultivator said those two sentences, Blood Crow Palace fell silent without a single sound. As though he was used to it, the young cultivator continued, "In this battle, Blood Crow Palace lost a middle-grade spirit mine and lost more than 30 Foundation establishment cultivators. Even though they were all outer disciples, it's still an unprecedented setback. I've heard that the seal of Misty Peak's spirit pool is about to be unsealed. At that time, Misty Peak will definitely arrange for their Perfected Foundation establishment disciples to be cleansed by the spirit pool. I intend to lead my men there and take them all down in one fell swoop. At the same time, I'll take in all the legacy disciples of Misty Peak as my blood slaves." A long time later, a voice sounded from Blood Crow Palace. "Yes, be careful and bring more men with you." The young cultivator lowered his head. "Don't worry, Master. Let Yu Fei and Peng Yu accompany you." After a brief pause, the voice from Blood Crow Palace sounded once more. The young cultivator was overjoyed and hurriedly said, "Thank you, Master. Once this matter is settled, come back and cultivate in seclusion. 3 years later, the primordial battlefield will open. Only then will you find your true opponent." After saying this, the Blood Crow Palace fell silent once more. Not long after, 2 people walked out from inside. They wore black Taoist robes and were expressionless. Occasionally, a green light flashed across their eyes. "Yu Fei and Peng Yu, greet the young lord." The 2 of them walked up to the young cultivator, knelt down on one knee, and shouted in unison. The young cultivator nodded in satisfaction. The 2 people in front of him were Jinren Jean Dan. They were also his master's blood slaves. Master's standards were extremely high. Anyone who could be taken in as a blood slave by Master was not simple. His master had single-handedly created the Blood Crow Palace and was the Palace Lord of the Blood Crow Palace. With that identity, even though he was only a Foundation establishment cultivator, his status in Blood Crow Palace was extremely high. He was the young master of Blood Crow Palace. Misty Peak, Su Zimo. Ha ha ha. Misty Peak. Ever since Su Zimo's return, he had not been idle at all. When Little Fatty, Shui Yi and some other Weapon Peak disciples came to visit, there was naturally no lack of drinks. During this period of time, Ling Ro came by as well and chatted with Su Zimo for a while before leaving. When Shui Yi and the others saw that, they naturally kicked up a fuss. In the sect, the only person who could get Ling Ro to visit personally was Su Zimo. Previously, Ling Ro even gave Su Zimo 2 talismans. Those 2 talismans had always been in his storage bag and Su Zimo had not used them yet. Although the favor was neither big nor small, the other party had indeed spent a lot of effort on it. Su Zimo wanted to refine a middle-grade or superior-grade spirit weapon and return it to Ling Ro after he gained some enlightenment in the art of weapon refinement. On the second day after Su Zimo returned to the sect, the disheveled old man came looking for him before he could even visit him. "Brat, where have you been for the past 3 months? You didn't even reply to my messages." When the disheveled old man caught sight of Su Zimo, he scolded him to his face. Su Zimo replied half-truthfully, "I went home for a while." "Yes." When he heard that, the disheveled old man's expression softened as he nodded. "Cough." The disheveled old man coughed gently and slapped his storage bag. An ancient book appeared in his palm as he said indifferently, "Take it. It's an ancient tempering book." True enough. As Su Zimo had expected, the disheveled old man had indeed bid for the ancient book at the Sky Treasure auction house for him. The person who wrote this ancient book was called Su Zhan. He was an advanced weapon refinement master from 1,000 years ago. At his peak, he refined dozens of supreme-grade spirit weapons, and it's said that he even refined a perfect spirit weapon. Even though there's no image of him refining weapons, study this ancient book well. Given your comprehension of weapon refinement, it won't be a problem for you to refine middle-grade or even superior-grade spirit weapons in the future. The disheveled old man was extremely confident in Su Zimo. Su Zimo had long known about the origin of the ancient tempering book. However, if he appeared too calm, he would definitely arouse the disheveled old man's suspicions. Su Zimo had no choice but to pretend to be surprised and asked, "Master, this ancient book must have cost quite a bit of spirit stones, right?" "Yes, it's all right." The disheveled old man nodded and said indifferently, "Back then, the competition for this book was extremely intense. Initially, I wouldn't have been able to bid for it. In the end, I bumped into an old friend." At that point, the disheveled old man purposely kept Su Zimo in suspense before saying slowly, "Ha. My friend has a huge background and he gave it to me on the spot without a second word." Even though the disheveled old man was trying his best to suppress it, his eyes were filled with glee. "Zimo, let me tell you, back then, the entire auction house was completely silent. Even if others had spirit stones, they couldn't use them. However, my friend wanted to give it to me and no one could stop him. Those people are just staring at me. They are so envious of me." Su Zimo could not help but lower his head when he heard the disheveled old man's bragging, almost bursting out in laughter. "Zimo, what's wrong? You don't believe me?" Noticing Su Zimo's abnormality, the disheveled old man raised his brow. "Nothing." Su Zimo waved it off hurriedly. "Cough, cough, all right, let's not talk about it anymore. Cultivate well." The disheveled old man seemed to have realized that he had gone overboard and said something else before turning to leave. In reality, Su Zimo's future achievements would not be too high if he only had this ancient tempering book without the advanced weapon refinement image. However, in the cave abode beneath the cold lake, Haka-Dojin had once demonstrated the entire weapon refinement process for Su Zimo. That was a perfect and flawless weapon refinement. Coupled with the ancient tempering book in his hands and Su Zimo's own spirit-gathering technique, he was confident that he could refine a supreme-grade spirit weapon. It was not something that could only be refined occasionally depending on the condition. It was a 100% success rate. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.